There goes the neighborhood. Good morning, everybody, and welcome. Welcome on this coronated March 14th, 2020, to the 737th episode of the Dave's Gone By, Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the stream. With me, Dave Left. I don't know why I'm doing this hand gesture now. What's that, like gang signal thing?
That's like love in sign language, I think.
Is well this or how can they do that? Okay, the love thing I get. The gang stuff I don't.
It looks very white behind you. I wish we could do something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're trying it in this room today, which is kind of neat because unlike most episodes of Dave's Gone By, where it's just me and Rabbi Sol Solomon and then the voice of Joyce off in the distance.
It's black again, the watch party.
I don't know what's going on with Facebook or with your Facebook in particular. I hope everybody's seeing this. I hope the watch parties are coming through.
I'm going to end it and try again.
Okay. Tony's joined. Tony, welcome to the neighborhood. And Fred from Friendy, let us know if you're actually seeing the visual on this or blacked out and you're just hearing the audio. That would be really helpful. So if you're getting both, you're getting visual and audio, whether or not it's in a watch party, do let us know. And Martha, welcome Martha, to the 737th episode of Dave's Gone By. As I said, I'm Dave Lefkowitz hosting the program, and we're doing it in a room that gives us a little more room than usual because we have a guest on the show, a guest coming up in about an hour and a half, 2 hours from now, who is not just going to be on the telephone. Thank you, Tony. Tony says audio and visual are working fine. So maybe it's just a watch party issue. But a guest who is going to physically be with us. Now, this is a guest that I'm used to seeing day after day after day after day in my life because he was my boss back when I used to work as a writer for which at that point, and perhaps still is, the premier website for theater news and information in America and in the world.
I think now it's sharing a group. It's a different thing.
Oh, well, hopefully. My wife is trying to get the watch party up and running. But anyway, this man, Robert Viagas, he is the founding editor of Playbill.com. So, there was Playbill magazine, which has been around for 150 zillion years. And then in the mid-1990s, the publisher of Playbill got some people together to create the website, and Robert Viagas was the founding editor of the site.
I said, please join us to meet Dave's friend Robert. Playbill friends?
Playbill friends, sure, by all means. Anyway, they hired me several months into the game to be kind of their head writer, which I was for a while, and then I took over Robert's job in circumstances that I hope we can talk about later. And I've got to gauge what he's willing to talk about working for that company and what he isn't. There are many times I've not even mentioned the name of the company on this program and referred to it as everything from the black hole and vortex to the Bermuda Triangle to a place that was actually pretty cool to work for a period of time. So we'll talk about that. Plus we'll talk about his career after I left Playbill, and he came back, and he also was involved in Playbill Radio.
I'm gonna ask Tony. I'm inviting him to the watch party, and tell him if he can, and if he takes the invitation, can he see?
Well, Tony, I don't know if you can hear my wife off, but Tony or Fred, if you want to maybe try and join, if you're being invited to a watch party, see if you can get in and see if you're getting.
Tony, I'll invite Fred.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Fred.
Yeah, whomever you can invite on the watch party. So, where was I? Both at his time at Playbill and since then, Robert has written books about the theater because he's a theater journalist and at some points a theater critic. So he's written books about the history of the Fantastics, like the longest running off-Broadway musical ever. And he wrote a book about A Chorus Line, which was for a period of time the longest running Broadway show ever. So kind of neat stuff to talk to Robert Viagas a bit later in the program. And by the way, welcome to Joan. Ooh, that's a new person. I've never seen her before. Welcome, Joan. And Phil, my God, Philip, a theater person himself. I hope you're tuning in to hear me talk with Robert Viagas on Dave's Gone By. This is probably a real good time for me to play our intro theme. What?
So I don't see it, but they can hear it.
Oh, okay. I don't know why you can't your watch party doesn't show the visual, but glad that you guys can see and hear this 737th episode of Dave's Gone By. We're calling it, check out the, I love this title. Here we go. We're calling this episode VIAG ALLEGRE. Get it? La 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 la. VIAG ALLEGRE. Oh, I have like a shaky maraca thing over there.
This is the image I took of you.
Oh, Joyce is looking at a black screen right now. But we lost a viewer. Oh, I think we lost you actually. While we were doing this, or it doesn't like my singing VIAG ALLEGRE. But join with me if you remember that show. Oh, look. It's the first time in a long time I've gotten laid. No, they have all those musical instruments over there.
Show me, point.
A shaky thing.
Point.
You know what? I'll play our intro music,
me
then I'll
where.
come. Yes, and then I will sing VIAG ALLEGRE.
Good morning. There goes the neighborhood.
And there was much rejoicing.
Didn't your meds kick in yet?
We got David Lefker that's here. He's a Long Island arts guy. He's got his own radio show.
I want you all to really enjoy a wonderful program done by a fine artist.
A glorious thing of unparalleled beauty.
Dave's Gone By. Dave is one of my very favorite broadcasters, so keep on listening to Mr. Dave.
Tropical hot dog night. Like two flamingos in a fruit fight. Every color of day. Whirling around at night.
Yes, as we said, there goes the neighborhood. Excuse me, the neighborhood on this Saturday. Oh, is this a shaky, or is this a musical instrument? This is a flute. This is my piccolo. I did not make that up. I guess that's what they call this, the piccolo.
Yeah.
I guess you can blow into it. That's what she said. Here we go.
You gotta hold some.
I'm-
Cover some. Cover the holes.
You cover the holes, and then it.
Yeah.
Oh! So it's not really the best. I think Galway couldn't even play this thing, but let's see. La 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 VIAG ALLEGRE. This is this is the kind of entertainment that you get when Broadway and off-Broadway are closed for a month. Yeah, you open your computer and you watch a disturbed man playing a piccolo and riffing on Via Allegre, calling it VIAG ALLEGRE. Let's do a little more of this. La, honey, you want to join me? La 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 VIAG ALLEGRE. La la la. Because it's Robert Viagas will be with us in the neighborhood, and we are very full of alegria about that. And I'm usually full of diarrhea about most things. Welcome to Joan and Philip and David from my high school and Bert and all the folks who are tuning in from all over the place to watch this episode of Dave's Gone By.
I said, David and Robert will discuss old times at Playbill later. Stay tuned.
Oh, yeah. Lots to talk about. Plus his career since then, as I've said. Plus we'll be talking invariably about Broadway right now.
There's a shot on the watch party of you playing the piccolo.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you take that with somebody else?
No, it changed the image, the picture of the watch party. It's like you going like that.
Yeah. Oh, what fun we're going to have. Because let's face it, we've all got to find something interesting to do for the next 3 to 4 weeks. Because I thought, okay, they're going to be closing all the Broadway theaters between now and April 12th. And de Blasio says, in New York, and it's not nonsensible what he's doing, any place that has 500 or more humans together in one space, don't do it. Yeah, and shut that down. But even the off-Broadway theaters that have like 90 seats in them are calling their shows off. I think also because if you have 90 seats, and this makes no sense to me, 90 seats, you're allowed then to sell only or have only 45 people because they're doing that 50% rule. There is a point of going overboard in terms of caution because you're going to run into 90 people or 150 in various places just on the street, no matter what. If you're going to the doctor's office to be tested for this coronavirus, if you can get yourself a test, if you're in a doctor, you're going to be surrounded with more sick people in close quarters than you are standing in a room or sitting in an auditorium with people facing front watching a show. I just don't know. Have you heard about the movie theaters? Are those closing too?
Talk theater while Broadway goes dark.
Yeah, right. It's just, I get it, and I get why they're doing this. I am happy that I got to go to the theater a couple of nights ago before all this went down. It's weird to have that feeling that when I saw Girl from the North Country at the Blasco Theater earlier this week, that would be the last show, certainly the last Broadway show that I'll be seeing for a month. Maybe the last performance.
But you love Bob Dylan, so it's fitting.
How's that? How's it?
Oh, because you love Dylan. You're a Dylan fan, yeah.
But I don't know. It's just, if I had known, I think if we all known, I would have just gone to the theater nonstop for the past 2 or 3 weeks just to load up, to immunize myself. Mm-hmm. Or the way someone who's giving up cigarettes smokes 20 packs before that last day, or the person
They never did that online Broadway streaming that we talked about. Remember that?
Oh, that exists. The library never got it.
See that? I wish if they sponsored you, you could promote them and you could get a nice deal.
That would be nice.
What about people who are addicted to show tunes? I'm worried about Friendly. They have a cabaret addiction. How are they going to survive?
Well, if you're addicted to show tunes, if you pay $9 a month to Spotify, or if you sit through the commercials. See it.
What about even our friend who likes cabaret?
Well, this is what I don't understand. I was going to talk about this on Inside Broadway. Birdland is apparently still going.
What's Birdland, a club?
Yeah, it's a club on 44th Street. So if you want to see Jim Caruso's cast party Monday nights, you can go to Birdland. Birdland is still doing, some shows are postponed or canceled, but they're still open. A couple of the other venues aren't even I look at the Don't Tell Mama website, and they seem to be doing their thing.
Symphony Space closed. My friend, I said, what are you going to go see? Something in Madison Square Garden? Because she said it closed, and she said it was at Symphony Space. But she said the 70s, right, or 90s? 90s,
Symphony's like 92nd or 96th Street.
Yeah.
Up in all these things. It's just, people weren't panicking 6 days ago. Then they started panicking, and the weird thing is the day after everybody panicked, everybody kind of exhaled, and the stock market went back up 2,000 points. This is after the official national emergency was declared.
Do you have your phone?
I do. What do you need?
No, if Robert calls you.
Yeah, I've got it right here. Just in case.
Yeah.
So, that's the weird part. Did we all feel like Thursday?
Do you want to say hi to your people?
In a moment or two. Did we all feel like Thursday was this bottom dropping out? You know why?
Right before spring break. You're going to unleash the hordes of college students. Unleash the Kraken.
Well, that's also, I'm trying to keep on one theme here, but that's also the thing of, they're closing the theaters, they're closing the movie theaters, they're closing the concert halls, but the elementary schools are open. All these little children who roll on each other, breathe, sputum flying in the auditoriums and in the park out. What do they call that? The recess area, the playground, the grounds.
Park area, yeah.
Or they all go into these little classrooms. There's 40 kids. They're all screaming and hollering, punching each other, biting each other.
Fred said the cabaret clubs I have been to are the opposite of social distancing.
Of course they are. You remember when we saw Harvey Fierstein. It was either at 88's or the Duplex, I forget which, many years ago when he was doing This Is Not Going to Be Pretty. And he's a large guy. And Harvey...
Oh, it was disgusting.
Well, it was a wonderful show.
He rubbed his pelvis near the back of my chair because he was trying to get to some hunky guy next to me.
Yeah, but he couldn't... He had to rub his pelvis. He wasn't trying to rub his pelvis on you. Believe me, he would not try to rub his pelvis on you. He just couldn't get from here to there.
He got wedged between me and some hunky guy he was trying to, snack on.
The whole point of cabaret is intimacy.
Yeah.
So meanwhile, I'm a little shocked that I look at the website for Don't Tell Mamas, nothing on there. I mean, half of these cabaret things, everybody's going to call. Are you open? Are you not open?
Yeah.
Why are you open? Are you open to 40 people instead of your usual 9? It's like, you know, at least get the information out there if you're going to stay open.
Yeah.
Why and how.
Or get someone to update your website. That's the big thing.
Well, that too, you know. But where was I going? Where was I going with all?
You were saying they're closing everything fun to do, and then the college kids are going to be unleashed. What are they going to do? Yeah. I think that's where you were going.
Well, in spring break, you can still. Well, in Florida, they're all going to go to Florida if they're not there already. Can they? You can get on a plane.
I don't know.
To Florida, you may not get back. You may be in Florida until June. I don't think they mind necessarily.
I think Florida would. If you would you want spring break for like 3 months in your town?
If I were 17, if I were in Daytona.
If you live in Daytona, you do not want the horde of students screaming for all that time.
I don't know. You know, if I were, living near the beach on Daytona and I just saw these like 17, 18, 19-year-old girls walking back and forth in bikinis, I think I would take the hit. I think
you're going to take a hit.
I would suffer, and then the free-flowing alcohol, and those kids would be really, really bored, right? They wouldn't really have anything to do. There wouldn't be these big keg parties and beach parties because they wouldn't be able to congregate. So we've got all these girls, they're all drunk, they're horny, they're looking for something to do. I could take the hit.
You will take the hit.
That's my darling and adorable wife, ladies and gentlemen. So, I don't know. I mean, how do you feel about this whole thing? Because you...
Look at the blue rays of my teeth.
It's, you teach. You've been teaching online for the past year, essentially.
Don't call it a comeback.
Well, now everybody's going to be like you.
Like, get your game together.
Meaning?
Like, learn how to teach online. This is 2020. We're not 1902.
Right.
A hamster's not running the internet with his little feet. So you gotta, like, get with the program.
But here's the deal. Like, if everybody's teaching online, why should kids still go to Harvard or Cornell or Yale if they can just,
Connie said, did you see the video of the Italians who are quarantined but singing from their windows? It's lovely. It's on my wall. Must watch.
Wow, yeah. Oh, sole mio, 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 mio.
Maybe you could sing, yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah. That is kind of cool. I mean, to be defiant but not stupid about it. I guess you're singing from your window. You're not hurting anybody. My luck, I would be the schlemazel who is walking in the street down below where somebody's singing and their saliva just goes right down on the top of my head. Which would not be so terrible, except knowing me, I'd probably feel the top of my head and be like, what is that? Oh, it's not bird poop. I'm fine. Hey, welcome to Gary and Rick and Kristen.
Can I tell you all the people
and my good friend Ozer. Who else?
Okay, Fred, David, James, Jonathan, Mel, Jerry.
Wow.
Who's that person? Mark, Kerr, K-E-R-R,
Kerr, I guess. Yeah.
Charles, John,
mm-hmm.
Danny.
Welcome.
Wait, there's more. Connie, Maya. I can't scroll. Wait, hold on. I'm scrolling.
Hold on.
And more people, but I can't. It's Connie, Maya, Marjorie, Melanie, Frank.
Wow. Let's be frank about this.
Yes, Frank is the last.
Wow. So thank you all for tuning in. So, well, what else do you have to do? It's not like you're rushing off to a matinee in the city, are you? You know what I want to do?
What?
And I shouldn't give this away to all the listeners, but if you go on websites now, New York hotels are really discounted.
Really?
If you wanted to take a nice little weekend away or a night or two.
What are they?
No, some of them are just they're like they'd be 130 a night, and now they're only
Cindy,
90. But
Tommy, and Harland.
Welcome to all of you guys. But there was one $400 a night hotel that's discounted to like $120.
Really?
I'm tempted. I just want to go up and go. And you know what I looked at? I had no idea about this. I thought, oh my gosh. Who wouldn't want to stay at the Waldorf Astoria?
Yeah.
Right, the Waldorf Astoria is now owned by Marriott.
Really?
And you can get regular rooms for $200 a night. I thought it used to be one of these ritzy so forth things.
Like the Plaza.
Yeah. I did see one. There's the Peninsula Hotel, and they're not on sale. they are still at their custom rate of $795 a night.
Wow.
What does a hotel give you that is worth $800?
I don't know.
You know, because that'd be like an extra 100 in taxes just to stay there.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't even, what, you know, does the maid come in and give you a handy along with breakfast? What's so wonderful?
Welcome, Harlan, Peter, Edward, and Dan.
Welcome, Harlan, Peter, Edward, and Dan to the Days Gone By show. So, oh, by the way, I didn't mention what else is going to be on this program today, besides the appearance of Robert Viagas, but we will have Rabbi Sol in to do part 2 of Storytime, where he will be reading from this dynamic book.
I wouldn't call it dynamic.
My first book of Mitzvos by Isaiah and Ruth Schild-Karlinski. All the wonderful things we do for ourselves and for other people that are essentially good deeds. They're good things to do in the world, which, you know, this is probably a real good time. If you're not entertaining yourselves, go help other people. Don't get too close to them. You know, put on a mask, but walk an old person across the street or something like that. Or have them walk you across the street. Do a mitzvah. Do a mitzvah, as it were. Anyway, so Rabbi Sol will be reading from that book a bit more, as he did last week. We will, of course, go, possibly for the last time in a while, we're going to go inside Broadway for news of the Rialto. Well, that's what we're talking about now, in a sense, but inside Broadway, talking about the theater, I will review the show that I saw this past week, Girl from the North Country, which moved from the Public Theater off Broadway, and what they do is they take a whole bunch of Bob Dylan songs and fit them into a new, real depressing story about a bunch of people stuck in a 1930s boarding house. Kind of some parallels, I guess. So I'll let you know what I thought. Who did?
Don. We said Tommy, Harlan, Peter, Edward, Dan, Don, and Kenny.
Cool. Wow. Welcome all those folks. So we'll have our Inside Broadway segment as well. We have our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, because Joyce and I were living in Colorado for a bunch of years, and I started writing poems about places in Colorado, these tiny little rude, awful, awful poems. I get to share them with you, and we're going to Blanca, Colorado today. Blanca,
Which
Colorado.
means white.
It does indeed. And what else? Oh, and our Yesterday quiz. Yeah.
Someone asked about the spelling of mitzvah on the book. They think it's spelt wrong.
Well, it's Jewish stuff, so it might be. Yeah.
MITV. They said MIT. ZVAHS. Like
Jews
mitzvahs.
are here. Well, yeah, we usually have mitzvah VAH.
Yeah.
It's like, but if you're more Yiddish old school, it's like mitzvos, mitzvot. Yeah, that's how they do it.
Oh.
I was channeling Rabbi Sol there for a moment. Did you see that?
You were channeling.
That happens sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah. I need to change the channel.
You do a great impression of him. It's
Do I?
It's really accurate.
He's my best. Yeah.
That's a very good impression of him. It's like you're almost the same person.
I can do Gilbert Gottfried doing other people doing Who's on First.
Please don't do that.
Gilbert Gottfried doing Jerry Seinfeld doing Who's on First. What's the guy's name on third base? That's about the only other impression I can do. Who's on second base? Anyway, I don't even know where I'm going with that. What else? Well, what else about this whole strange week? That's where I was going. Thursday felt like the bottom dropping out. Thursday was that moment when everything felt unstable. The market, sank into a bear market. People didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do with themselves. Everybody's putting on gloves, running around like, I don't want to be with people. I've got friends on a plane. I've got friends in this. Yesterday, not so much. Yesterday, we all took a deep breath and kind of learned to live in a new normal. Because 9/11 wasn't like that. 9/11 stayed messed up for about 3 months before people could kind of uncross their eyes about what had happened.
Yeah.
Here, within about 24 hours, people were just like, it's the flu. It's a bad flu. It's killing old people, I guess, and killing the vulnerable folks. It's been very hard to find, even in Italy, where they've had 1,000+ people die of this thing now. Of who's dying? Is it 90-year-olds? Is it children? Is it folks with HIV or already have pneumonia, etc.? Or is it just like 40-year-olds who catch a bad version of this COVID-19? That's not something I wish somebody would tell me. Is like, who should be really worried?
Ken, Linda, and Rob joined.
Well, welcome to Ken, Linda, and Rob. So I think that's one little piece of information that would be really helpful for the rest of us, because every winter a flu comes around and knocks out a certain percentage of the population. It's just, if you believe in God, I guess that's part of God's plan. This is how he winnows out some of the weaker people without having to euthanize them ourselves. He's just like, oh, okay, this guy's 92, he's got a little bit of pneumonia, let's give him some flu, bye-bye. I don't know if this particular thing...
Old times? People want to know.
What about GREELEY? Oh, well, yeah, of course I'll be doing GREELEY Times at all times. It would be interesting for me to... And what they also ought to do is, as they're figuring out these testing kits on how to get them to people and how to check, wouldn't it be great if these testing kits could at least test for not just that flu, but the various different strains of any kind of flu that you would... I mean, people were getting a flu shot back in October, right? It would be nice to know if you took this test, the sputum, whatever they do to check for it. It's like, no, you don't have COVID-19, and you don't have this particular strain of flu. But guess what? You got this little flu, and that's kind of nasty. So we'll give you this antibiotic, and you'll be all right. Maybe it would be nice if the CDC could figure something like that out. Because even when you get the flu vaccine, it doesn't necessarily protect against everything. It's just the major strains that the NIH and the CDC think everyone is going to get. I don't know. And I think the one good things potentially that could come out of this...
Hey, somebody joined that has a letter for a first name, W. W. John.
Okay. Well, doesn't mean their real first name is W. It just means that's the name they chose on here.
I've never heard anyone name their child
W.
W.
Okay. Well, William S. Handy went by like W.S. Handy and
yeah, but just W.
And I have a very kind of oily friend named WD-40.
Oh, Connie's likes your idea. Connie likes your idea of testing. She said that'd be cool. I currently have a cold.
Oh, see, there you go.
Yeah.
Connie, if you just not get too close to the computer, because I'm here up in front of this camera and this microphone. I don't want to get your germs coming through. So if you could just step back a foot.
Another James joined. We have like 10 Jameses.
Wow. Okay.
Well, James it must be a popular name in that birth cohort. That's like the 5th or 6th James.
Yeah. Maybe I jimmied something on the computer. Get it? That's the kind of comedy we do. This is what you're going to get used to for the next month. This is entertainment, my friends. This will take the place of Hamilton.
The doll uncovered her face.
Oh, dear. Oh, well, anyway.
David.
Oh, I was going to have... What? Joyce is freaking out because we're in this room that we're not usually in. I kind of like it. Oh, Robert joined. So I guess he's still... Robert, remember, you got to come here in about an hour or so. So we'll see you in a little while. But welcome to all the folks who are watching.
We're going to take him to lunch.
Yes, yeah.
Does he know?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, of course. We're going to go and have a nice lunch in a place where all the people are really packed in tight.
No.
And sputum is just flying all over the food.
Oh, Diane joined. I think she's your library, Diane.
She was. Yeah, Diane used to work in the library.
I think we only have one Diane.
I'm not sure about that. I think
Connie said she won't sneeze.
Thank you, Connie. Please.
Your listeners are very polite.
Yeah. There's a joke. No, I'm not going to make that joke. I'm being... I'm still being G-rated at this portion of the program. But what else? What else am I going to say about any of this stuff?
I want to put someone kissing for the listeners.
Yeah, no, I think other stuff will naturally crop up about Corona and all this soon. Oh, so I was talking about being able to go to hotels, getting on. I love seeing that headline in the New York Post, I think it was, where de Blasio was thinking about canceling subway trains. And it's like, dude, if the idea is to separate people, right? And the idea is to keep, what's the word that they're using? Not personal space.
social distance.
Social distance.
Fred used it. Fred used it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Fred.
Social distancing, right? So if only 20 people are in a subway car, where usually 300 people are packed in like
empty.
sardines,
Yeah.
then don't
And you know what
take
I
away
like?
trains.
So I don't touch anything in the subway, you know. And then there's the new cars that I love. The end of the car, instead of having those two-seaters, it's just standing space. So I lean against the wall with my back and I read, or I just think. Yeah, it's much better designed. Oh, Susan joined. Another Susan.
Well, welcome to Susan.
Wow, David.
But my point is, if fewer people are riding subway cars at a given time, fantastic, that's a good thing. We don't suddenly want to pack the people, make them wait a half hour. Another James tuned in. We don't want to suddenly pack the people who are, who would normally be standing together. If they have this chance to separate, keep the trains as empty as possible. Have them ready for people who need to board them, who still need to work in person, who still need to go about their lives and do. But I just think that's really, really funny. It's like, well, if the trains are almost empty, good! That's the point! That's what you want! If Broadway theaters were playing to 50 people, it wouldn't be a problem. You know
what somebody asked me?
What?
Who was I talking to? Was it somebody? They said, do the Broadway theaters have insurance?
Yeah, I think there's a thing. The producers are insured, not the actors.
Ask you. Yeah. But that's so like, if let's say we make a show and we invest like $10 billion, right?
I would.
No, but we're doing, and let's say that we have to like now close the show. Who pays? The insurance company?
No, there is insurance. I mean, Broadway producers pay a whole chunk in order to ensure an actor breaks a leg and it's their star actor. What happens?
But what does it do then?
It's the actors who I guess are covered on a certain level of health insurance from being in equity and stuff like that. I don't know what they
get.
What about
are the actors still?
Actually, this is so cool. This is so cool because I hope you're still watching. Beth, who was just on our program a week or two ago, Beth Malone.
Oh, she's in
from UNC.
Funhouse.
Well, she was in Fun Home on Broadway a few years ago. She was off Broadway in The Unsinkable Molly Brown, which was supposed to be still running and is not. Beth, do you, if you're watching, if you want to type in, do you get any compensation? Do you get anything, either from the producers or from equity or whoever, in a show anymore, for a show that closed, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks early because of this damned virus? Beth, if you want to type in, that'd be great. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free.
I asked the group, I said, does anyone know if actors are paid when Broadway shows are closed?
Yeah. I mean, I would really love to know. Closed temporarily. Closed not by design. Like when a show ends, you're out of work. That's obsolescence. But if it's closed for reasons of,
Yeah, we have a lot of actors in the group.
Of course we have a lot of actors.
We have a lot of actors in this group, or producers, or
It doesn't have to just be Beth. It can be anybody who has been affected.
I put it to everybody because you have some actors, you have some people who are comics, you have some all different kind of.
As a matter of fact, I just saw a friend of the neighborhood, J.O. Sanders, is starring in Girl from the North Country. I saw him on Broadway 5 days ago.
Yeah.
He's not on Broadway right this second. So Jay usually tunes in. So if he's watching too,
you might not be in the watch party, so you have to get him either way.
Well, anyway, I think we should move on. I think the Corona thing will pop up throughout this program and throughout the next 2.5 hours. You're watching Dave's Gone By. It's about 9:35 in the morning Eastern Time here in the Neighborhood. We do this show every Saturday from 9 until noon or thereabouts. It's a mix of talk and humor and culture and all sorts of weirdness and fun stuff that we like to do. On this particular episode, which we're calling VIAG ALLEGRE, we've got Robert Viagas coming up, the former founding editor.
Dave and Karen, your library friend, joined.
Dave and Karen.
We got Dave, we got Karen, we got Susanna, we got James, another James, Philip.
Wow.
And we have Dave and Karen.
Well, wonderful. Both from the library or just Karen?
No, I don't know the Dave.
Okay, cool. Well, welcome, Karen. Welcome to all of the folks watching our 737th episode live on this March 14th, 2020. I'm in my bunker. Right here. Not my usual space. We've got the cans of tuna fish on the side here and cans of things that will last about 5 or 10 years. Oh, we just had Lorca tuning in. Maybe Lorca knows some of this too. Lorca, a friend of the neighborhood from a few years back, she runs a small theater company off of Broadway. So Lorca, I will ask you the question if you weren't listening before. What contingencies do you have if a show has to end early, or if a show is delayed or postponed?
Do actors get paid?
Do the actors get paid? Do the directors get paid? What happens? What provisions, assuming there's a union involved, or maybe if there isn't, to care for people in that off time? So by all means, feel free. I can't believe nobody's responding to this. There are all these people in the industry watching and listening.
But maybe Dina joined too. Maybe they don't know.
Oh, well, yeah, that could be.
I wouldn't know, even if I was an actor. I mean, like, you don't know. Probably only the people who know are the producers, I would think. I mean, I don't, like, how many people...
the actors are making phone calls on Friday.
Maybe they still don't know.
Yeah, that could be. Welcome to Dina, by the way. Welcome.
That's
and
a new name.
As I said, Lorca and Beth and Diane and Robert and all these cool folks. So let's take our minds off of what it's been on for the past week and a half, 2-3 weeks. But somebody did mention that, remember when we were all laughing at those folks on that boat about 5 weeks ago? They were on that little cruise ship, and we all went, oh, tee-hee-hee, they're quarantined, and then they're stuck on a boat.
I would get such motion sickness. I wasn't laughing.
No, motion sickness and also stir craziness, because they couldn't leave their damn cabins, which was nuts. And it didn't help anyway. That's the funny part. They thought they would contain everything. Just these people have it, and some folks in China. Let's keep them on the boat, and all will be okay. And then it turns out, well, no. They could have let those folks off, gotten them home, quarantined them in their houses. It wouldn't have helped a damn bit. But we all looked at them as some sort of exotic species of traveler. Like, well, they went to China, and China gets SARS, and China has these weird things, and they eat eggs that have been buried in the ground for a month and a half, and pig's knuckle things. And
Richard joined. We got a lot of people.
Yeah. So, and we looked at them askance.
Nastasia.
Oh, welcome to Nastasia. But and now it's like, we got it. We're all quarantined in one way or another here, in and out of the neighborhood. But anyway, as I mentioned, we have coming up on the show our Colorado Limerick of the Damned. We have our Inside Broadway segment, our Today, Yesterday quiz. So some quick quiz questions about March 14th in history. And Rabbi Sol doing story time about mitzvahs. But before all that, we'll have, there we go, our weekly segment. Since Joyce and I were living in Colorado, about funny phone calls, real phone calls that come into the Greeley and Weld County Police Dispatch, mixed in with stories that were in the newspapers 100 years ago in northern Colorado. We call this segment, babe, you want to take us into it? What do we call it?
I'm writing about, I said, playbill at writers, editors, reflections later on in the show. Stay tuned. I got to put an emoji.
But until then...
It's very difficult for me to do emojis, David. I have to find the right GIF. It's like a little image.
Just keep using the poop emoji.
No.
Nothing would convey this program
TV.
better.
I have a happy TV.
Happy? Oh, good. There you go. Happy television. There you go. Especially happy because we're doing Greeley Crimes and Old Times. La 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 la, ferliotendiedwee, squiggliotendiedoo, diddly-beedly-dee.
Sarah, that's a new one.
Who?
Sarah.
Welcome, Sarah.
Let me put the computer down because I've invited half of the world.
Oh, wonderful.
Okay.
It is now time for Greeley Crimes and Old Times.
And another David. The biggest names are James and David. We must have 50.
Well, it's also their biblical names. Everybody...
King James, King David. Oh!
It's funny that there's so many Jameses, so many Davids from the Bible. Never met a Nebuchadnezzar, right?
Too hard to spell on the birth certificate.
Not that many Japheths out there.
Where's my right clicky? Okay.
I guess there's some Bathshebas.
Yeah,
but
Sheba.
Yeah.
Sheba. Maybe Sheila?
There are a lot of Sheba Inus, but I don't think that's quite the same.
I gotta cover that doll.
Anyway.
Okay.
Are you ready for Greeley Crimes and Old Times, my darling?
Sure, Maddie.
Greeley Crimes and Old Times, it's a mix of calls that come into the Greeley and Weld County Police Department. Oh, speaking of... Oh, again! Ray, welcome to Warhol, who tuned in, and also welcome to Ray Bahur, one of our friends of the neighborhood, who just, he is, first of all, he has a play that he has co-written, or a musical that he's co-written, that has been doing readings, but he's been in Chicago, on and off for about a decade or so, on Broadway. He's in Chicago right now, except, of course, no one is in the musical Chicago right now. So, Ray, what have they told you? If you're watching, if you're listening, what have you heard from the union? Do you get any compensation during the layoff? Do you get anything during the layoff? Do the producers give you anything? What do the producers get, if anything, from their insurance? If you want to just type in and give us a quick little informational thing of what happens to Broadway shows and Broadway producers and the actors when you run into a situation like this. Because, shows go on hiatus for a day or two when there's a big snowstorm, right? Or a terrible blackout, or there's those kinds of things. This is a lot longer time. But what are the contingencies in place? I'm kind of curious. Anyway, time for Greeley Crimes and Old Times here on Dave's Gone By. Are you ready, dear?
Yes.
A caller. Bring, bring.
We used to have a phone.
Yeah, well, I tried that one.
Oh, I'm not touching that. Hold on, wait.
There's a telephone in here, a toy that I used when I was a little child, and Joyce looks at me and goes, I'm not touching that. A caller at a playground on 9th Street.
Oh, wait, where's the police? Okay.
Reported a man who seemed out of it, possibly drunk, was sitting near the playground with his pants falling down.
There you go.
Drunk man's pants are falling down, falling down, falling down. Drunk man's pants are falling down. There's his penis.
His wiener.
Right.
Remember the story you were in one of the places in Greeley and you said a grandfather told the guy about to aim his penis when the kid was peeing? Aim. What did he call it? Is his
no,
what was it called? Yeah.
I was in I think in the Egg and I. No, this happened. I was in the Egg and I or an IHOP or one of those places.
Yeah, breakfast restaurant.
And I was in the bathroom doing bathroom type things. And near me, I think I was in the stall, and then over at the urinals, I heard a man, and it turned out to be a little boy. I didn't know immediately he was talking to a little boy. And he's like, now hold your jingle hopper.
Oh, I love that.
I nearly lost it.
Jingle hopper?
Lost it right then and there.
John Jacob.
Well, that's Jingleheimer, but he called it a jingle hopper.
I never heard that.
I never heard that either. Now
What's
I use it all the time.
Hopper?
What do you think a jingle hopper is?
In real life, like, why is he,
I have to imagine that, like, if you lift up the sausage part, the things underneath kind of like jingle bells. Yeah.
Oh, that makes sense.
Jingle hop, tinkle all the way.
I learned.
You did learn. You learned. You see, it's an educational program.
It is educational, yes.
Because if we can't get entertained in the next month, we can get edumacated.
Yes, we'd be smart.
Hey,
you got a flute.
Yeah. Oh, good. Perfect timing. Oh, no, this is not.
What is it?
It's a piece of furniture that my friends decorated at one point in sort of a dildo-esque fashion.
I feel dirty now.
As well you should.
Okay.
A new music clock is being sold in Greeley stores. Something musical. Where's the xylophone? Ugh. That noise made me using some rap, but here we go. Here's the new music clock. Is being sold in Greeley stores. It will wake you to music each morning. Some say it'll put you on a par with England's royal family.
Whoa!
Think about it. This was a predecessor of your basic alarm clock. Being woken by music was a great idea back then. But check this out. This is a horror.
What?
England's royal family 100 years ago. This is how they would be woken up by a bagpiper.
Jesus.
Who plays outside the family's palace bedrooms.
Oh,
if you wonder why Meghan and Harry really split from the royal family, this is why.
I think that it's also like England and the UK, other parts of the UK have a bad relationships. That bagpiper's like, F you.
God.
He's probably mad.
Scotland, we want our independence.
Scotland forever. Yeah, that's right.
4:30 in the morning. Good morning. But the sad part, and this ties into something that was canceled owing to the coronavirus this week.
The St. Patrick's Day parade.
Not just the St. Patrick's Day, but at the Patchogue Theater, which has canceled all performances through March. Do you know who is playing there? This sounds like, if there is a hell on earth, it is. Not only was the 25th anniversary of Riverdance canceled.
Oh, please, don't go there. Too soon.
The Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Oh, I would remember we saw Tuba Extravaganza. Fred, you remember Friendly Tuba Extravaganza? The Red Hot Chili Peppers could be in that ilk.
In that ilk, except tuba I can handle. This is bagpipes with an attitude.
I like it.
Drums with a Scottish accent, and a blazing rock band, and a show so hot it should carry its own health warning. By the way, that was their tag before Corona came on.
That's funny.
They play, and among the bands they play are songs by Coldplay, Snow Patrol, Robbie Williams. They do Queen's We Will Rock You, of course.
Everybody does that. I mean, let's be real.
And, of course, a rock medley.
Oh, our first Michael.
Oh, welcome, Michael. Of Deep Purple's Smoke on the Waters.
Oh, come on.
And AC/DC's Thunderstruck. They call it, and I kid you not, bag rock.
I love it.
No, how can you... Nobody loves bagpipes.
I would love it.
The man who invented bagpipes realized what he did and then shot himself.
I'll tell you, it's a joke because I was telling one of my colleagues, no part of me is Irish, right? They named Mommy's Irish because she is fair and has blonde, hair of her choosing. But I'm not at all Irish, but I do like the bagpipes.
Really?
I like when they go down the parade and you see the men in the skirts with the tartans with the bagpipe. I like it.
It is the single most annoying instrument.
I love it.
Really?
I think it's very macho with men wearing dresses. Yeah, I like it.
Men wearing kilts.
Yes,
blowing into long hoses is macho.
Yes.
It's kind of the opposite here.
Yeah, I like it.
It's kind of like, that's Harvey Firestein territory right there. Holding a bag and blowing into a long pipe.
I like bagpipes.
I guess you do. I can't, no. Unabidable. Yeah. No. Much as happy St. Patrick's Day to all the Irish folks here, I think they must have canceled the Chieftains. They were going to play on St. Patrick's Day in New York. So a big shout out to our friend in the neighborhood, Paddy Maloney, and his band. I think it's their farewell tour, as a matter of fact. But anywho, moving on with more of Greeley Crimes and Old Times on Dave's Gone By. Hey, the new Boyd's Grocery will open in Greeley this week. It's a ribbon cutting ceremony.
Wait, let's see what would be here.
There you go.
Nobody's impressed.
Well, this is impressive because in this new style of shopping,
yes,
the customer walks through the store with a basket.
Oh, because in the old store, you used to go to the store, the store clerk, and they would get what you need.
Yeah.
It was like a dairy barn.
Now it's like the customer picks out what they want to buy. No clerk walks with you, and when you're finished, the customers go to a check stand where the clerk adds up the cost of the goods.
You know the joke now with Amazon, we're going backward. Amazon and personal shopping, you don't shop for yourself anymore.
It's true.
Yeah,
or even you go into the store, there's no you can check out yourself.
I love it.
You bag yourself, you do everything yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I have bagged myself and it's painful. But
Imagine if you were a bag. We need a bagpiper sound.
Yeah. But even as you said, remember you belonged briefly to that club where they would send you clothes that they assumed would be right for you?
Yeah.
That is the whole next step. It's like you don't even pick what you're shopping for. They send it.
It's like, this is what's good for you, and then you buy what you want, what you don't want, you send back. And sometimes it's good because it stretches your, everybody has a skill. Some people are really good at matching and making fancy outfits,
right? And
they could make you look better.
Oh, I guess. But I just, to go literally as far away. You could find
love online dating, and you don't even have to see each other. You could just video chat and do naughty stuff.
Right, yeah.
So,
I'm all for it. Anywho. Horror alert!
Wait, uh-oh.
We used to have a Halloween one. That's good. I like that one. Sometimes we have alerts on Greeley Crimes and Old Times. A caller on Alpine Avenue reported.
Alpine? Isn't that Swiss? Like cheese?
Oh, well, yeah. Reported droplets of blood
Ew.
going from one residence to another. Police determined.
Oh, wait, let's see.
Yeah.
Mosquito?
No. No, this is, I warned you, this is a horror alert. The blood was from an injured cat. Yeah, that'll ruin your day, won't it?
Well, at least they found it.
Yeah, assuming, yeah.
I can make a bad
Happy
joke
ending.
about bleeding, but I won't.
Bleeding from pussy? Yes, you could.
I'm not.
Yes, you certainly could make a bad joke about, and you know what? It's the right time to do it now because we're in that kind of period.
I'm not used to seeing out these windows. It's a whole different view.
And that's the whole truth, if you know what I'm saying.
This one's different. Hold on.
Do it. Oh, very nice. Let's get to another recent crime.
Okay.
Police that was, by the way, recent also with the bleeding cat.
Oh.
Police responded to suspicious activity at a supermarket on 23rd Avenue. A man was being escorted out of the store for stealing.
Mm-hmm.
He started urinating publicly in front of customers. I guess he was pissed off. Knock, 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 knock.
I like that.
Really?
Sometimes it's hard to find the bathroom in these stores, and why not just do it? Did he take out his jingle hammer? What is it, jingle hawker?
Yeah, Jingle Hopper.
His jingle hopper. He was
You know where he should have been shopping?
where?
Spray Mart.
Oh.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm so proud of that.
That's yucky.
Either that or if he was aiming a certain place.
Yes.
Target.
Well, it does have that bullseye.
Yeah.
Maybe that might be too,
Or if he was in an electronics store, the Wiz.
I think the Wiz is out of business.
I do love myself sometimes. I do. I didn't have those planned, by the way. Those were just right off the top of my head. There's something wrong with me. Okay, let's go.
You got multiple clapping.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Thank you.
They liked it. Oh, wow.
Yeah, they did. So,
Jan?
we have more people? Yeah?
Yeah, a lot more. Sarah, David, Michael, Jan, Peter,
Wow.
Dean, and Karen.
Good Lord. Welcome, everybody. Welcome.
I don't know. I can't say that again. It was too many people.
So here we go. On Greeley Crimes and Old Times, sometimes we go elsewhere for our news. So we try and stay in Greeley, but we do usually a story every week that is away from northern Colorado. And here we're going to go all the way to Pasadena, California, courtesy of the Huffington Post. Because speaking of horror alert, check this out. At around 4 o'clock on Thursday, this past Thursday, someone called 911 about a person being stung by a bee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. While only one person had been stung, the caller observed several bees in the area and had, quote, a bad feeling about this.
Yeah, me too.
The first firefighter to arrive at the scene
Oh, no.
immediately started getting attacked by bees.
Oh, God.
I know it's not funny, but it's hysterical. It's like, well, don't you, if you're a firefighter, don't you assess the
I
situation?
think they have one of those coats, though.
Even so, no, somehow the bee got around the coat. Those aren't like bee uniforms.
God.
What do they call those? The beekeeper
Yeah.
outfits. No, he's just a firefighter. It's like it prevents fire and not zip. So a firefighter gets on the scene, and now he's being stung by bees. In fact, he made a radio call warning, quote, of a block-long swarm of bees.
What?
Yeah.
Was this old times or?
No, this happened on Thursday. This happened
Oh my God.
3 days ago in Pasadena, California. The firefighters' first thought this is like magnificent,
Jump in the pool, right?
was to run back to the vehicle to take cover, like get in the fire engine thing.
Yeah.
But then he remembered that his partner, who was in the vehicle, is allergic
Oh
to
my
bees.
God! Oh my God! Why would they send him? Why would you send somebody
I don't
allergic
know.
to bees to a bee evacuation thing?
Oh my God!
I would
so,
say, do you have your EpiPen? Yeah.
So what did the poor guy do? I don't think there was a pool.
I'd go in a pool.
No, there was no pool. He stayed outside and got stung like 20 times.
He's a good partner.
Oh my God. And so what else happened here? The fire department then called in police to cordon off the bee area, which is when responding officers also began getting stung.
God.
Wouldn't you? I don't know what you would do. What do you
Get
do?
some bee spray.
Well, that's what they started doing. Hold on, where is it? They used foam and CO2, which helped disperse the bees and killed, some of them. A spokesman said we tried to just get them to fly away, but in terms of public safety, we also had to kill some. A beekeeper was finally called.
Why? You should have been number one on the speed
Yeah,
dial.
it's like, was firemen, police.
Fireman.
Bee guy.
Fireman who's allergic to bees. Let's get him out there.
Let's get the bee man. Because he was in the Mr. Burns movie.
Beja.
No es bueno. No me gusta eso. No. Anyway, the beekeeper came along. He estimated. How many bees do you think there were?
10,000.
No. Between 30 and 40,000.
Whoa.
Africanized bees.
So what does it mean?
What does what mean? Well, there's a big old swarm. It was like a thing, and he had to go in there, of course, and take out the hive. Because if you don't, they'll just cool.
Why did they call him first?
I don't know what. Because if you're a policeman,
yeah,
and you get a phone call that someone might be stung by a bee, your first thought is,
they should have sent paramedics.
Let's make sure he's not allergic and help, and maybe we'll assess the situation. And then you get there, and there's 30,000 bees flying around. That would make a really cool horror movie, though. I mean, it would be a bee movie.
Oh.
Thank you. And then everybody's complaining, oh my God, the world is running out of bees.
Yeah.
We're not going to have honey, we're not going to have pollen.
Was this California?
This was Pasadena, California, yeah.
Maybe they want the beach.
I know, but if they can put 40,000 bees near a building, I think we're okay on bees. Especially since these were those Africanized aggressive.
And how big was that hive?
Could have been the size of this room for all you know.
God.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of bees can fit in a very small. There are people who have found beehives in their attic or their closet with thousands of bees in them.
Don't say it.
Oh yeah.
Say hi to Richard.
And
David.
In fact, who was there was one rock star who had a big problem with them. Oh yeah, Sting. that part's I care about that. Thank you very much. But you know what? The only surprise about this is that Huffington Post covered the story and not BuzzFeed. Yeah! Oh yeah! I am on today.
What time is it, by the way?
It is 10 o'clock in the morning,
Whoa.
Eastern Time.
Time flew.
Here in the neighborhood, like a bee. Here in the neighborhood with me, Dave Lefkowitz, my darling and adorable wife, Joyce.
Hola.
We're doing the 737th episode of Dave's Gone By. We're calling it VIAG ALLEGRE, live on this March 14th, 2020, because Robert Viagas, my old boss and a theater writer and journalist, will be with us in about an hour. Plus, let's see what else do I want to tell you. Don't forget that our friends at Hewlett Minuteman Press are important to us. They help sponsor this fantastic podcastio programmio of the stream. And one of the great things that they do is, whether it's just, black and white. I just have this list of stuff. Hold on. Let me get this up for you. Or get this up for me so I can read it. But one of the great things that they do is they can do the smallest little jobs, like if you walk in there with one page to copy, of course they can do that, or fax something if you need it faxed, because nobody's got a fax machine anymore. But they can also do 10 copies, or 100, or 1,000, or 20,000 copies, color, black and white, on special paper, large size paper, laminated copies. They can do spiral bound volumes. They can do perfect bound volumes. If your company needs stuff bound, printed, copied, they'll do it. They can also put your logo on an item of clothing or sporting goods or pen and pencil sets. They do banners and flyers and Mylar balloons and things like that as well. Let's take a look at since our friend Robert is coming.
That's just what I'm typing.
Just a little
I
bit.
typed join
Yeah.
the 737 episode of Dave's Gone By.
Yeah.
Friend
Mm-hmm.
from Playbill to join later and talk about old times.
So let's do R for Robert. Among the things that Hewlett Minuteman Press can do for you, they do raffle tickets, raised letter printing, reception cards, report and report covers,
Can they rap?
response cards. Well, they rap with a W, but I guess they can rap if you know the Toron family. They got some moves. They do resumes, like soup to nuts. They can help you plan out your resume and then print it. Ribbons, rubber stamps, and that's just the letter R of all the things the Toron family can do at the franchise of Hewlett Minuteman Press in Hewlett, Long Island. Give them a call, 516-569-5577, area code 516-569-5577. They're actually open until noon today. They're open 5.5 days a week, which is pretty cool. And if you tell them Dave sent you, you get 10% off any job, big or small. You don't have to be in Hewlett to use them. I was using them in Colorado, 2,000 miles away. So any job, big or small, give them a call, 10% off if you tell them I sent you from this show. Hewlett Minuteman Press, they are the copy kings. Well, let's see. What else do we have to do on this program? What shall we get done next? Let's do a little bit more of GREELEY Crimes and Old Times, and then we'll get to Storytime with the great Rabbi Sol Solomon. He'll be coming with us too, as will Robert Viagas in about an hour. Okay, you ready for a little bit more of crime and old time, my dear?
I was talking to people. Okay, yeah.
There we go.
Inviting people for you. Yeah?
A caller on 24th Street.
Wait, I don't know where the call is. I have to do this one.
Ring, ring.
Wait.
A caller on 24th Street reported receiving a text containing a lot of horror ones today. The text contained a photograph of a beheaded person and a gun. I don't know if it was in the same photograph or
You know what that means? That means your prescription's ready at Walgreens.
No, I mean I've seen my share of topless photos, but not. This is kind of different. The text was from an unknown number and just said, "Hey." Part of the photo also showed a man who looked like his face had been peeled off. I'm telling you,
horrible.
those vacation photos from the Corona cruise, those
not
are just
good,
not
not
good
good.
at all. No. Hey, by the way, General John Pershing, commander of the U.S. Army, was on train number 103 this morning, which stopped briefly at the Greeley train depot. A crowd of 6,000 greeted him. Many were children because schools were dismissed early for the occasion. And many children had to be plucked from the tracks as the train approached. Not the brightest, as we know from working at UNC, we don't exactly have the brightest children in Greeley, Colorado. I would figure just like Darwin tickets course. If children are going to be like, oh, there's a train.
No, but I saw they stopped our train, subway train, and I saw someone walking like on the tracks. Yeah, it freaked me out. I only saw that once before, so it's scary.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, if a child is dumb enough to literally go onto the tracks, you might want to just grease the wheels.
Oh my god.
I'm just saying.
That's scary.
Anywho, oh my goodness!
What?
Oh my goodness, this is so important. Ooh. We have a potato buyer alert. Now, you know, potatoes are very important to this program. Potatoes are like our mascot and one of the things we absolutely love on Dave's Gone By. We have an alert from 100 years ago. The wife of alt potato buyer William Miller. Now, he's not an alternative potato buyer. There's a town in Colorado called Alt.
Yeah.
William Miller had a dream Saturday night that their office had been broken into and burglarized. When they checked the next morning, the dream was true.
What happened?
The window was broken and the safe deposit box was stolen. Later, the box was found alongside the road of the Lincoln Highway, but I'm asking, where was the potato? This man was a potato buyer. I don't care about his money box. What happened to his potatoes when they got robbed? I don't know. I'll tell you one thing. Once the robbers got their haul, they peeled out of there.
I think their approach was half baked.
You think? I think they were starch raving mad.
Yeah, you're just chiving.
Oh, yay! I can actually do a high five.
Spud me.
There we go.
Spud me.
My wife won't even touch me with the corona going on. She's like, oh, okay, she will. Hold on. I'm going to kiss my wife for a moment. Oh, hello. Hug time on Dave's Gone By. That was fun. I like that. Let's just stop the damn show and go into our bedroom. Anyway, onward with...
Oh, you see people too. Is that the
I see some people, but not all the folks that you see. So I see Angie and Frank and Jeff and Howard, yeah. Let's do one more Greeley Criminal time and move on with the show.
Timothy and Asaph. A-S-S-A-F.
Asaph? Are you sure that's not just a fable? No. Or he could be, and I apologize for this in advance, he might be an African-American person. Maybe the Ace of Spades. I did pre-apologize for that one.
That's awful.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Anyway, finally, at the Princess Theater, but not the live theater, because even back then they didn't have much live entertainment.
Wow.
The feature film was When Bearcat Went Dry.
Oh.
This is not the bleeding cat. This is the Bearcat.
Is the Bearcat a bar?
It's a town.
Oh.
But here's the deal. Check out this wonderful, old-fashioned fun entertainment in northern Colorado back in 1920. This movie was about the banishment of stills in the Cumberland Mountains, right? So knocking down the libacious and licentious drinkers of Cumberland County, and the film, in so doing, promoted the establishment of a certain organization. What organization do you think that was? The Ku Klux Klan.
That's troublesome.
The film, and if you want to actually check this is not a joke, the film was lost for many years. They found it. It is now on YouTube. Do you know who's in it?
Who? Lon
Chaney.
Ew, that's creepy.
Well, the guy from Phantom of the Opera, the guy from Hunchback of Notre Dame, and a bunch of guys. The weird part is the guys who come to help and save the day. Yeah. He's a bad guy. Duh.
Who directed it? Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question. And it features a bunch of guys riding in hoods, but it doesn't specifically reference the Klan.
You're right.
Yeah, exactly. But then, go check it. It's really there. It's on YouTube. Lon Chaney is in it, and so is a version, I guess, kind of the KKK in this movie called When Bearcat Went Dry. The more things change, don't they, folks? Anyway, you are watching Dave's Gone By. I need, since Purim was just a few days ago.
I'm going to go get a tea. Do you want something?
No, I'm good, thanks. So, I wonder if you could maybe talk to the folks for a minute while I bring Rabbi Sol into the...
why don't you just put something like...
Well, I've got music playing. I can play our really
music.
outro.
I'll help you I'll help you find him.
Because Rabbi Sol is here to take us into story time. Going to be a lot of fun. As we said, it's really weird, tough times that we have at the moment. But it's a good time to think about doing right for others and doing right for yourselves. Doing things called mitzvos, as the Jews would say. I don't know a lot of Jews, but the ones that I do know.
We heard of them.
Yeah, I've rubbed against them now and again, but not during the whole Corona period. Anyway, Rabbi Sol last week started reading a book, a children's book about doing mitzvos. He didn't get to finish it. He's going to finish it right now as we come out of Greeley Crimes and Old Times.
Mr. Horace Greeley was no fool. I'm sure that you'll agree with me that Greeley was no fool.
What he is getting at is that Mr. Greeley was no fool.
Yippee-yi, 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 yi-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi, yippee-yi.
Oh, shalom! Shalom, my friends. This is your old pal, Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches. And oh my God, what the hell's wrong with my payas? It's just, I can't go to my usual beauty parlor because they're closed for the virus thing. If the barbers there, they have to, before they cut any heads now, they've got to dip their entire hands, not just the instruments, but they've got to go into that green blue goo that they've got in there. I've never seen this any other place except barbershops. But they got that big funnel of goo, and this is apparently a very sterile thing. If you put your whole arm in there, you will never get coronavirus. You'll never get a girl either, but it's okay. Anyway, I am here not to do my usual, which is to, God damn this thing. Here we go. Let me turn this around. Yeah, there we go. Shalom to you. Anyway, last week on StoryTime, I have Geppetto's hat and Pinocchio now. And on StoryTime, we were talking about the beautiful thing that is mitzvahs. A mitzvah is when you do something nice for someone else. And by doing that, you're doing good for yourself and you're doing good for the world, like tikkun olam, healing and repairing the world, because the world is full of so much madness and horror and bad things that when you do something good, it repairs the world just a little bit. It's like putting a Band-Aid on someone who's had their head blown off. You put it right in one place, it helps a little bit. Anyway, mitzvah, and when you think of bar mitzvah, right, it's something good that happens. It's something that you're bringing good to the world. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we found this book, my first book of mitzvahs, and we were reading from this last week on the program as part of StoryTime, a weekly segment on this Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio scroll of the universe. So, we're going to continue with this book by Isaiah and Ruth Schild-Karlinski. And I think they are related to my good friend Dress Shield. I kid. Anyway, moving on. So it's all this book with pictures of good things that we do for ourselves and our friends. For example, here's one we talked about, Has Nachach Orchim, or something like that. When you're nice to your friends when they come to visit. There's another one that we did earlier about Shalom, when you have children who are fighting, like this. Oh, yeah. When Jews fight, it's a terrifying thing. You can get a black or blue mark. It's a scary moment. But you shake hands, you make friends, and then you ride the bicycle together. That's the way to do it, ladies and gentlemen. So, we're moving forward with our book here of other mitzvahs you can do. For example, if you've ever seen the movie Weekend at Bernie's, you find a dead guy, and you prop him up, and then you have him walking across the street. This is good. We call this V'hadarta Pnei Zakein. It's about treating your elders right. There's Mr. Weinstein. There he is. He's our neighbor. He always has a cheery smile and something nice to say. He's like a Zaydin, like a grandpa for everyone on our street. When I see him coming home from the grocery store, I run to help him carry his packages, because usually there's candy on the bottom and I can take some. And if I meet him on the bus, I stand up to give him a seat. It is important to treat older people with special respect. That's the mitzvah of V'hadarta Pnei Zakein. Of course, the problem right now, if you go to help an old person and you take their hand and you stand really close to them and you accidentally spit on them, you kill them. So maybe this is not the best mitzvah to do during March of 2020. Just avoid that. Avoid old people altogether. I do. My friend Eli and I found a red cloth pencil case on the sidewalk near our school. I wanted to wait. This is still the old people? I guess it is. I'm sorry. No, this is now called Hashavas Aveda, helping. My friend Eli and I found a cloth pencil case on the sidewalk near our school. I wanted to walk away. You never know, could have been ticking. But Eli reminded me of the mitzvah of Hashavas Aveda, returning lost objects to their owners. There was a clue inside the pencil case. It said, Yankee Cohen. Yankee Cohen, Y-A-N-K-Y. So I guess just like the regular New York Yankees, the guy's a loser. Was written in gold letters on one of the pencils. Well, we knew a Yankee Cohen, so we ran as fast as we could to ask if the pencil case was his. It was, and Yankee was very glad to have his pencil case again. Yeah. Okay, Revenge of the Nerds. We move on to our next item in this book of mitzvahs, of good things to do for people. We're now ready for Hasaras Michshol. Hasaras Michshol, which means removing anything which might hurt someone. That's why I got so angry. Well, why I get so angry when I see something like this bicycle right in the doorway. Oh, that makes me mad. Oh, don't do that. That's not good. So there's a bicycle in the doorway. Not only does it make the house look messy, bicycles in the wrong place are dangerous. Someone could trip and fall and really get hurt. When you're finished riding, your bike has to be put away. Puzzles, jump ropes, or building blocks should not be left in the middle of the floor either. Do you have a good, safe place for the toys in your house? Children, this is important. You know, your mother probably has some toys in the house. She keeps it in a little drawer by her bed. That's right. Go check. You might see some things that look kind of like flutes in there, or maybe things that light up and vibrate a little bit. Those are fun toys. That is for mommy's toys. Go have fun with them. But put them back. Don't leave them in the middle of the floor where people can trip. Go put them back where they belong. I'm a sick bastard. Okay, moving on to the next item. Sa'ar Ba'alei Chayim. Sa'ar Ba'alei Chayim. Our teacher took us to a zoo to make his life easier rather than having to teach, and we all had a chance to pet and feed the animals. Look at this. Oh, there's some lovely bestiality going on right there. We were very careful to be gentle. Not gentile. That would be very different and very terrible for the Jews, but no, to be gentle with the animals, because we learned about the special mitzvah of Sa'ar Ba'alei Chayim. That means we must never tease or hurt a living creature. Wives and husbands not accepted. I blew that joke. That means we must never tease these people. We should be kind to all animals and take good care of our pets. Can you see how gently the girl in the picture is petting the donkey? And it's a pay it forward kind of thing. So when this girl, she is gentle in petting the donkey, and later on, when she grows up and you might meet her, be gentle when you pet her ass. These are important things, ladies and gentlemen. So wrong. Meat, milk. Here's. I love to eat milk wherever I can. Before I set the table for supper, I asked my mother an important question. Will we be eating milchig, dairy, or fleischig, meat? If it's meat, we'll need the red check tablecloth, the green flour dishes, and the fleischig silverware. If it is, however, a dairy meal, we'll have to get the blue tablecloth, the dishes with the gold stripe, and the milchig silverware. And this is why all Jews are in therapy. This is what they have to separate, no matter, Meanwhile, milk comes out of a cow. They really are together that whole time. But no, when they're on a table, we got to separate them and everything we do with them. Unbelievable. So even the dish towels we use are different. In a Jewish house, milk and meat don't mix, just like sex and marriage. Do you know the difference between milchig and fleischig in your house? Something to think about. Okay. Coming to the end of this book of mitzvahs, we have just a couple more, I think. Thank goodness. Oh, this is important. This is maybe the most important. Talmud Torah. Talmud Torah. This year in school, we finished learning the Aleph base, the alphabet, and started learning Chumash, the study of the Bible and the Jewish Torah there. Our Rebbe told us that learning Torah is a big, big mitzvah. And the more we learn, the smarter we get. I like to sit on my father's lap and show him what I learned. Yeah. Nothing need be said right there. What I learned with my Rebbe. Yeah. On Shabbos, my older sister reviews what she learned in school all week. And if she doesn't understand something, she asks my father or my mother, and they always explain, or more likely they fudge things and they make believe that they know, because really they forgot. Yeah. Anyway, we have coming one more. This is the last one. Last mitzvah in this book of mitzvahs. It's called Kriyas Shema, the saying of the important Hebrew prayer, the Shema Yisrael. I had a very busy day doing mitzvahs, and now it feels good to be in my nice, soft bed. I want to tell Hashem how much I love him. So I put my hand over my eyes, and I say the Shema Yisrael, word by word, very slowly. I'm never afraid at night, not of the dark or anything else, because Hashem sends special angels to watch over us while we are sleeping. See, this angel has eyes all over the place. It's kind of a good thing. Anyway, there are angels, one on each side of the bed. It's to collect the urine just in case the kid's having a problem. I know I'm tired because I can feel my eyes starting to close. Good night. Laila Tov. Shema Yisrael. Ador Shem Eloheinu. Ador. Wait. Sorry, goddammit. We have been enjoying this wonderful book. It's called My First Book of Mitzvahs. The idea for this book, somebody had to have an idea for this book, including sample texts and photographs, was originally submitted to Feldheim Publishers by Ruth Lipson, and they got other people to write it. There must be a story there. She wishes to extend her warm thanks and appreciation to the following people who helped prepare the proposal and the initial draft: Menachem and Leah Edelman, and all the children and their parents who agreed to be photographed. To Mr. and Mrs. Irwin Benjamin, to Rabbi and Mrs. Louis Elchonen, who helped underwrite the cost of the original photography, to Aunt Jean and Uncle Paul, who expressed their love and dedication, to Dr. and Mrs. Henry Rhine, to Dr. and Mrs. Leonard Sakharov, whose contribution was given in great gratitude, to the Jewish Center for Special Education, to Mr. and Mrs. Harold Shapiro, who donated to the project in honor of their great-grandson Laish, and to many more individuals who prefer to remain anonymous. Who can blame them? Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a joy for me to join you on this viral Saturday, March 14th, with Storytime and Mitzvos. And let's take this seriously, folks. This is a good time. You're not going to be sitting in a concert hall. You're not going out to a movie theater or a big club or going dancing. So why not help those who cannot help themselves? Help yourself to what they have. There you go. I'm Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And you have been listening to the Day Has Gone By program and Storytime. Shalom. I'll see you next week.
Tell me a story, tell me a story, tell me a story. Remember what you said. You promised me, you said you would. You gotta give in, so I'll be good. Tell me a story, then I'll go to bed.
Welcome back to the Day Has Gone By program, or as people who've done shows on TV and stuff. It's actually, we always say welcome back. You were here. I'm the guy who went away for about 20 minutes, and you were watching Rabbi Sol Solomon. We thank him so much. To find out more about Rabbi Sol, remember that he's got a website, shalomdammit.com. He also has a Twitter feed, which is at Rabbi Sol Solomon. And his Facebook page is Shalom Dammit. And we call it Shalom Dammit because the rabbi, he's got so much stuff at shalomdammit.com. He's got rabbinical reflections, these little mini sermons he was doing for a couple of years on the show, and he may go back to at some point. Here we also have footage of the entire one-man show that he did off Broadway at the Richmond Shepherd Theater when that was still extant. It's called Shalom Dammit, an evening with Rabbi Sol Solomon. It's hilarious. I think it's kind of brilliant. You can decide for yourselves. It's the long version. It's like 2 hours long. It's fabulous. It's all at shalomdammit.com, as are the half-hour hilarious episodes of the show that he did on Long Island Cable for about a year or so, called Shalom Dammit, Rabbi Sol Solomon's Peace, Love, and Acid Reflux Hour. You don't want to miss them. They're all there. They're all free. Shalom, D-A-M-M-I-T, shalomdammit.com. Anyway, I'm Dave Lefkowitz. You're watching Dave's Gone By on this March 14th, 2020.
Ask Robert if he's on the way. We have coffee if he wants coffee. If we can make him some coffee.
We can make coffee or tea for Robert. We have some very, very old liquor in some cabinets here.
We're not going to give him liquor.
We could give him, well, liquor. I hardly know her.
And then we'll take him out to lunchies.
Yeah, exactly. But before then, we've got other stuff to do on this episode of Dave's Gone By.
Did I miss the rabbi?
You missed the rabbi.
Oh.
I know you're so upset about that.
Mom was telling me that the noise we heard was actually the other night. It was a car that ran into off Peninsula and hit into the corner house.
Oh, whoa.
That's what she heard that night. I thought it was construction.
Wow.
But it was a car accident. It came off fast, I guess, Peninsula.
figure.
And hit.
Go
Oh,
figure.
wow. So
Yeah.
since I left, we have
Yeah.
Timothy, Asaph, Connie, Robert, John, Lee, Fran, and Joey.
Welcome all. Welcome, not my cousin Joey, a different Joey.
Paradise.
Oh, my goodness.
I love
Wow,
that
we're in
name.
paradise, are we? Here we go. Well, I am in paradise when I do this show. It's called Dave's Gone By. I thank everybody for joining. We're in our spare, literally our spare room here.
Mom
I
said
kind of
we-
like it.
Mom said we could have done it in her bedroom. I said, this is kind of fun.
Yeah, this is kind of neat, and we got an instant light backdrop.
Is it good? The good lighting?
The lighting is pretty darn good,
I
I
just think we need like to hang a picture
Yeah.
or something there.
Next time we can
Maybe
do
we
it.
can put like find a picture.
Because we will be joined in about half an hour by Robert Viagas, the author of books about the
We should
Fantastics.
leave this table here.
Well, if we stay in here, I
We can,
will.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he wrote books about a chorus line. He also, what was his other claims to fame besides being the founding editor of Playbill.com? Oh, I didn't do Inside Broadway yet. That's what I forgot to do. Oh, shame on me.
I'm saying writer of many, many theater books.
Yeah, he is. Like he's got his name on a whole bunch of them, including At This Theater, revisions of that Louis Botto work that Botto would revise while he was still alive. And then Robert took it over. I'm the Greatest Star. He also writes, and he is a professor of theater at Five Towns College, right here on Long
Where's
Island.
Five Towns College?
I'll ask him. It's local. I mean, it's fairly close, I do
He
believe.
probably is an adjunct, not a professor.
Yes. As a college too. It's but still. What else? Oh, well, yeah. Let's get to.
I'm gonna do. Can we do a dance break? Do some dancing.
You really don't want to see me. Potato will dance for
Wait,
you.
wait. I'm doing dance.
We'll play
party.
some music here. But if you play music though, it will get
No, you can.
chopped
I'm
off.
gonna wait. Let me put the GIF. Hold on, and then
Do
I'm
it,
gonna
do it.
do it.
Yeah. This is taking the place of the Broadway show you were going to see this month.
Okay, there we go.
So we can think of all the jagged little pill. Jump over the couch, Potato.
Aw.
Chicago. Little Fosse moves. It's all just in the minute movements. There you go. Yeah.
He has no feet.
Well, Aladdin. Ride the carpet. Yeah. Very cool. Wicked.
I have one of two cockroaches dancing. I can't put down.
What would he do for Wicked? Ah, defying gravity.
Wow.
Ah. What are the other music? Girl from the North Country. Oh, I'm so depressed. Knock, knocking on heaven's
Have him
door.
do Spider-Man.
Oh, God. Turn off the dark.
And then do Cats.
Oh, God.
Cats the movie.
I have no genitals.
There you break
Like all the actors in the Cats movie. Exactly, yeah.
Have him do
Oh, of course, Hamilton.
yes.
It's
Oh
like,
no.
how does a to Potato from Idaho. Get on TV and then do a whole bunch more. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's about as far as you can go with that.
That was good. I like
Yeah,
that.
that was marvelous.
Was authentic.
Yeah. Anywho, since we're talking about Broadway shows, let's begin our segment about Broadway. Since I do love it so much, since I have been a Broadway, well, a writer about Broadway and off-Broadway for many, many years, journalist, a theater critic. I'm also a playwright. I'm also an actor of sorts and a director. So I've been all around the town inside Broadway. Inside Broadway, a look at theater on and off Broadway and beyond. Brought to you by Total Theater and Performing Arts Insider. Curtain going up. Inside Broadway we go for news of the Rialto every week here on Dave's Gone By. Just giving you an update. Well, yeah, Broadway. Right now, there is none. If, in case you haven't heard, owing to the coronavirus and owing to Governor Cuomo's proclamation, because every Broadway theater is at least 500 seats, because that's one of the demarcations of Broadway. Broadway theaters are 499 plus seats. They can't continue. I guess they could if they cut their audiences in half and play, let's say it was a 600-seat house and they had only 300 tickets sold, but just the ramifications of even trying to do that. They're just like, no. Equity made the decision, the Broadway League made the decision to stop all shows on Broadway up until April 12th. And maybe beyond, but they're hoping that the world will get a handle on COVID-19 by then. So that means, like, Lincoln Center, every single theater, the Nederlander, the Schubert, the Lunt-Fontanne, the August Wilson, the Neil Simon, they are all dark. It's going to take an enormous hit, not just on Broadway itself, but all the restaurants in the area. Who comes to Times Square?
The tourists, like the tourist stores, all those tourist stores.
I mean, granted, people will still come out for Bubba Gumps, I think, or the Hard Rock.
You could buy a T-shirt for like $75.
Yeah, but I don't know. Will it be like the 1970s, where you just went into Times Square and what was there to do, right? Because these big
Prostitution.
Because the giant restaurants probably have to do something too.
Prostitution.
Well, I'm okay, but that's what was there, and junkies. And karate movies with Bruce Lee. All the marquees were either porn or karate, and there was just garbage everywhere. That was Times Square when it was empty. So it won't be like that now. But who's gonna show up to do anything there if Broadway isn't running? And the problematic part that I mentioned earlier is that because everybody's scared and everybody's nervous and it is a pandemic, off Broadway also. So the public theater is dark, because if you think about it, some of these off-Broadway theaters have several small theaters in one big building.
Like a black box. And
But the problem is if you have 2 or 3 shows going on at one time, and each show has 150 people, with the staff and everything, now you've got more than 500 people in a room. So E59 is closed, New World Stages is closed, some of even things that are technically off are closing for a while, either till the end of March or beyond. And it was funny. The thing I was going to report only 3 days ago was that Scott Rudin, the producer, had this idea. He said, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about losing all the tourist traffic. Something bad's going down. Tell you what, New York, we're going to take all the tickets to my hit shows, because this guy, almost every show he's got is a hit.
Wow.
He's got To Kill a Mockingbird, West Side Story.
Oh my God.
He's got the Lehman trilogy coming in, the new Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, right? Book of Mormon, I think I mentioned.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And these shows have been selling really well. Like 10 to 11, or if the doorbell rings. But he said, tell you what, if the seat is not sold, all tickets $50 in the theater, which is about a third of the price of a regular Broadway ticket now.
Steal.
Yeah.
But who at the TKTS?
Or you can buy it at the box office. They'd probably buy it telecharge too, with the fees that they charge, which are astronomical, but still $50 for a Broadway ticket for orchestra. Not too shabby. But then maybe he knew he would never have to make good on it, because 3 days later, just.
Why don't they just Zoom it? Like have the actors do the performance and have the people watch it on like virtually.
Because I think the only show that would make money doing that would be Hamilton. That's the only one. People would pay like $50 to.
Yeah, like or even like $20, and everyone logs in, and then you just see it live.
That isn't the worst idea. It would be kind of airless. Imagine doing a musical, and you get through a big musical number, and it's just silence.
I think that would be great. They could hear people clapping. They'd have to mute themselves. You'd have to mute the audience, and then at the end of a number, they could unmute, and then the audience could clap, and then they could mute.
You mean the audience watching at home?
Yeah, they
could clap at hands.
Yes, and they could clap, and the actors could hear it.
Wow, that's an idea about 5 years ahead of its time to make everybody be able to suddenly.
No, you can. That's called video chat.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So even if I video chat like Zoom, let's say I Zoom you. Yeah. You can see me, and I'm the actor's la 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 la. Mm-hmm. And when you're talking, I hear you, so I mute you, or you mute yourself. But when I want to hear you clap, I can mute myself and turn your volume on, and then you can clap. Right.
But the thing is, can you do that? The streaming capability to do that for like 5,000 people at a time.
Somebody is the boss of the whole meeting, and that person controls all the stuff. It's like a stage director. Yeah. It's like a stage director.
That's
only
a thought.
You're directing. You're not directing the stage. You're directing the telecommunications. Yeah. And let's say during intermission, what they could do is play a video. You could watch a video. They could project a video, or they could talk and say, "Hey, how'd you like the show?" Yeah. They could have someone come in. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's kind of the idea of like live from the Met, or when PBS does
and literally
broadcast a Broadway show. Yeah. That's what PBS started. If WNET, at least in New York, is smart, they try and rerun all these musicals that they've recorded over the past like 2 or 3 decades.
Tim joined.
And also like live from Lincoln Center and things like that. Just to give people that sense of continuum. But anyway, what's kind of nice, or what was good about Scott Rudin's idea is he said, look, my show, it's not like I've got flop shows, and I'd be happy to get $50 a seat from anybody. These are hit shows. But he said, I don't want actors playing to a sea of red velvet.
Yeah. Wow. That's called a fringe. I think that's the fringe. Isn't that the motto of the fringe festival?
That's called when I do a play. That's what I see. Yeah.
Remember that menopause one?
Oh, God, yeah. Here's the deal. And of course, because it's touching everywhere. In 2 of the Broadway theaters, a part-time usher did test positive for the coronavirus. So there was a little bit of worry about that. But they still were going to keep Broadway going even after knowing that one of the ushers apparently had it. It did affect 2 shows that I was going to talk about today anyway. This weekend was supposed to be the final weekend for The Inheritance, which was Matthew Lopez's epic plays, two-part play about gay men, past and present, and how the past affects the present, and the AIDS era and post-AIDS era. It's a very watchable, longish 6.5 hours. Certainly worth seeing. Did not get the audience love that they were hoping for. It was a huge hit in England. It's okay. Oh, it's fine there. An enormous hit in England.
People are smarter in the UK. Because they have bagpipers waking them up.
There you go. But the show had laughs, it had tears, it had 2 big scenes of gay sexual contact. You figure potential Broadway hit, just didn't catch on. People didn't want to buy or really put out, as it were, 7 hours of their lives, buy 2 separate tickets at Broadway prices necessarily. It just didn't become a thing in New York the way it was in England. So it was going to close this weekend. It had to close 4 days early when all of Broadway closed on March 11th. Also closing on a couple of days ago was a terrific revival of the Charles Fuller drama, A Soldier's Play, about a murder on a black army base during the World War II era. Really, fine performances. David Alan Grier is in there, and or was I should say was in there. Do I have any more about it? No. I'm glad I got to see it. I hope you did too. Very well worth seeing. The play holds up terrifically well as both a procedural and a commentary on race relations both now and then. Unfortunately, it had to close 4 days ago, along with everything else. But it was supposed to run until this weekend. A show that really got hit, in some ways more than those two, was a show called Six. This new show, a musical by Toby Marlowe and Lucy Moss, was gonna open this past Thursday night, 2 nights ago. It was all set. They were getting ready. They were finishing previews, right? Some critics had already begun to see it, and now it was ready to open on Thursday night. And de Blasio and Cuomo closed Broadway Thursday at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Oh, those poor bastards. Again, it's on hiatus. They were ready to open, so it's likely to return in early mid-April. And all that show and every show that hasn't opened yet is essentially going to have to push forward its opening date. Then Michael Riegel, our friend of the neighborhood who writes for the New York Post, he was saying that there are shows that are going to be in trouble. A show that we were talking about last week, The Minutes, that was supposed to open this week, the new play by Pulitzer Prize winner Tracy Letts, the guy who wrote August Osage County. That was going to open this week. It came out of Chicago, out of, I think, Steppenwolf Theater. Not going to open this week. Doesn't really have much in the way of an advance sale. People are waiting for the critics and crowds to weigh in as to whether it's worth seeing. Well, with it not even opening, and then having a layoff for all these Chicago people for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, and then having to reestablish momentum, re-rehearse a bit, restart previews, and then open sometime at the end of April or early May. You know, it may be may not. Riegel is hinting at, or perhaps it may. They're deciding. They're figuring out. Of all things, and this shocked the heck out of me. Phantom of the Opera. You know, I'll do a visual on that. Phantom of the freaking Opera, which has been around. It is the longest running show in Broadway history by far. Longest running show. With no real need or reason to close for years and years and years and years. This could be hit because it's such a tourist show. Every New Yorker has seen it 8 times. So who goes to see Phantom? Young girls for the first time out in the theater, but they're going to Wicked. And tourists. Well, if there's no tourists for a month, what do? Do you bring it back? Do you reopen? And Riegel contacted Andrew Lloyd Webber, and Webber said, "Oh, don't be ridiculous. Like, of course Phantom is going to stay open. We'll keep it open. We'll go." And he even promised that at some point soon they're going to spruce up Phantom and give it kind of a new look and a new feel, because they've been doing it all over the world and making tweaks, and they've done it in Vegas. So maybe not so worried that Phantom of the Opera will actually close on Broadway and maybe give Chicago a chance to catch up. But Chicago's a tourist show too, you know, and they make less money a given week than Phantom ever did. So it's a weird time. I do know there's one off-Broadway show that is continuing that nearly closed last week. It was a show called Harry Townsend's Last Stand that I reviewed a couple of weeks ago on this program. It stars Len Cariou, and at first it was Craig Bierko, and then he left the show, they got another actor in. And then there was a big simus backstage of, apparently Len Cariou had an argument with the producers, and he walked off the show, but then there was a big misunderstanding, and they made up, and then he went back on the show with a new actor, and then they restarted previews, they re-invited critics, and then boom, coronavirus hits. Now this is off-Broadway. This is in the small theater in City Center. And amazingly enough, they're keeping this show going. They have to have half a house, right? They're doing only, I don't know how many, it's not a big theater. It probably has 150 people. So they maybe have 75 people in the whole place instead of 150, following de Blasio's directive. And they're gonna do it. They're gonna keep it going. It's been popular. It's not a great play. It's kind of a boring old story, but it resonates with a lot of people because it's about a father and son. And the father is living alone in this big house, and he's getting to an age where he just can't take care of himself anymore, and the son has to deal with that. So it's an important good topic. And the play is occasionally amusing and occasionally a little bit touching, but it's nothing that has been done before. My wife and I wrote an article in an academic journal about plays like this. So you could do worse than go see it, and thank God there's a show playing off Broadway still that you can go see. You could do worse than Harry Townsend's Last Stand. But anyway, at least that show is continuing. I want to tell you about the Broadway show that I saw last week. Oh, by the way, thank you to all the people tuning in. Arlene tuned in, and Art Paul, our musical friend from Wisconsin, who says that he wrote a song about what he thinks of this COVID-19, the sickness. So when the show's over, do check out Art Paul's Facebook page, and maybe we can actually, I'll see later in the program if we have time to play it, or if I even can play it without, I don't think I can without losing my feed. So, oops. But anyway, this past week, I got to see my last Broadway show in a while, Girl from the North Country, which I reviewed months ago when it was at the Public Theater off Broadway. Now they've moved it. This is a show that takes the music of Bob Dylan from all parts of his career, not just sort of the Dust Bowl Guthrie stuff he did early on, and mixes it into a brand new story that was written by Conor McPherson, the, I guess he's Irish or maybe Scottish playwright. I think he was Irish or English, but it's all about, it takes place in America. It actually takes place in Minnesota, of these really poor, kind of desperate people living in a boarding house in Depression era, like 1933-34 America. And all of them, they're just barely getting by. The tavern keeper, the innkeeper, he gets by on what he can of what the people pay him, the meager sums that they can, week by week by week. It's tough because his wife, she is all there some of the time and mentally losing it the rest of the time. So I guess early onset Alzheimer's is what you would call it. And then you've got all these people, these transient people. Some people who've been living there a long time, some who show up like a boxer and this shady guy that he's with. You've also got the girl that they've taken in, but she's in trouble, alas, and whatever happened to the dad. So there's a love story that happens. There's also that girl they're trying to marry her off to this somewhat better off fella who comes to the boarding house as well, but she has absolutely no interest in him, especially because he almost kind of molested the inn owner's wife years ago. The thing about the characters here is one or two of them are kind of evil, but most of them are just forced to do desperate things, either by a nature that they can't control or just the circumstance that they're in. If they're stealing, it's because, you know, that means they've got $5 to live on for the next 2 or 3 weeks. If they're doing, if they're fighting, if they're not getting along, it's just because they're like rats in this trap, in this maze that they have to live in day after day, with really not much in the way of hope. They find hope wherever they can, but there really isn't much to be hopeful about in that time in America, in their circumstances. So mixed in with all this, and it sounds really depressing, it is depressing. One of the interesting things about living through this COVID scare is you look at a show like this and, well, it could be worse. You know, we could be living like these, but they've got it worse. They're more likely to give each other tuberculosis than to be worrying about what we're all dealing with. And as I said, it's a musical, because to break up the sad stuff that's always going on and the situations that they've got, they bring in and sing on stage all these Bob Dylan songs. And that's the one thing that still doesn't quite sit well with me. The mood of the piece is there from beginning to end. It's brilliantly directed. And so they sustain this quiet mood. It's sort of like, if you remember Dancing with Lunasa, even when they have lively music, it contributes to the whole spirit of it, but it's not like this big Jerry Herman-esque musical. It's still downbeat. It's still these people in this collective having to live together and deal with each other. So they play these Bob Dylan songs, a lot of them which are kind of folky and down and mournful. Some are a bit livelier and more up. But Dylan, when he moved out of the 1964 era and stopped writing songs of protest, as it were, and personal, very easy to follow songs, and he took drugs and got into his own head, as quotable and amazing as Dylan is as a lyricist, they're not lyrics that traditionally lend themselves well to putting them on stage, being very clear about what they're about. You puzzle through a Dylan song and it has a certain feeling to the lyrics, but any sort of logic is bypassed from bringing it all back home on until much later on in his career. So when they bring in a song, there might be one or two lyrics that resonate and land home, and then the rest of the verse is like, what does this have to... They sing Hurricane about the boxer, about Reuben Hurricane Carter, which is 50 years later, and there's a boxer on stage, that character, but it's a weird push-pull sometimes. And it also made me think they could do this exact same play in the exact same way and put in songs by the Cranberries, because they have that same feel, that same... these songs by Dolores O'Riordan and the Cranberries back then, and you figure it. Take away the Dylan songs in Girl from the North Country, slot those in with the same instrumentation and the same overall feel, it would be the same show. And that, I think, is kind of a problem. So I would say it is worth, assuming Girl from the North Country reopens, it's worth going to, it's worth seeing, but at the same time, you're going to sit there and go, well, gee, this is not exactly a fun time at the theater, although it can be very involving. And you're going to start to think, well, is this the next iteration of the jukebox musical? What does it really mean? Where's the jukebox musical going? Anyway, I know where we're going on Dave's Gone By. We've got to welcome our guest to the neighborhood. And this is a perfect segue right from our Inside Broadway segment, because with us in the studio, of all things, we actually have someone that I've known for many, many years, my old boss, Robert Viagas. Oh my God, we just shook hands. Oh no, I've got the plague.
You need to move that out so Robert can get in.
Oh, does he have not enough?
Yeah, I'll move it. I'm going to move some stuff.
Yeah.
I take large steps.
You hold this, Mr. Robert.
That's your beverage.
Yeah.
We can also get you coffee or something.
Oh
but,
yeah, if you like coffee, I can make you a coffee.
Yeah, can you make?
Oh, we have a homemade still of
Like
in the bathtub.
no
It's
milk,
good.
no sugar.
A black and bitter.
Ooh, okay.
Black and bitter,
Like
really?
my women.
Oh, this is going to be
Robert,
fun.
TMI.
Now let's make sure we're visually here. Yes, this is sort of homemade-ish. I'll get in a little bit closer. I'll try not to get too much spittle on you while we're talking. There we go. Hello. And
do you have any of Robert's books here? Or in Colorado?
Here, they were in Colorado, so they're down. Oh, did you bring any? Because
No,
we're gonna
I
hold them
forgot.
up.
All
Oh,
the hubbub of reading about your crocodile-infested moat that I'd have to cross. I walked right past them. I packed them. I put them by the door. I walked right past them.
no, I'm good. I mean, usually I have
But
to
I have
feed
them all up here.
Do you really? Yeah. By the way, and
Robert,
that.
your mind palace.
Yes. It's closest we're getting to the Palace Theater in the next month, I'll tell you that much.
Sure.
Robert Viagas, let me give you a proper introduction.
All right.
I've never done anything proper in my life, as you know. But
It was the first time for
Robert Viagas is, look at I don't know, better with or without the glasses. Let's see.
Nothing's going to help.
No. Yeah, dude, you're a handsome guy. I saw you at the theater a couple of weeks ago, and you were in there in the suit and the tie, and I'm like, whoo, my goodness. I'm straight, but I thought, oh.
As you see, I'm schleppy for your podcast.
Yeah. Are you don't have any kind of a cold?
I have no kind of a cold.
Good. Okay. Good. Yeah. Because I do. Just kidding. Now, Robert was truly my old boss. He is the founding editor.
Yeah.
God.
Just me being the old boss. Go ahead. Yes, I'm sorry.
That didn't look like old.
No.
What you were doing was like.
No,
that looked
I was
very
doing-
different.
That was me walking with a cane and having no teeth.
No, that's how I got my last job. I'll tell you something. Anyway, this is the reason you're not an actor, man. This is not walking with a cane.
Okay.
This is something else.
Right, I'm trying to move that up so it can be seen. See, if I do it down here with the actual cane, then nobody sees.
Yeah, no, this is a
that would
scene
be worse,
from Slave Play and the Inheritance is what this is.
That's right.
Anyway, so, we're not even going to talk about Broadway. No, yes, of course we are, because I'm your old boss.
Yeah, my former boss.
And can you believe this was 22 years ago when I first came to play. It was 1998 that I was first hired there. You had been
Wasn't
there
it
since...
sooner than that? I thought it was earlier than that.
No, you were there.
I was there from 1990. I created in 1994. 1994, yes. That was this. We created Playbill.com in the season where, you may recall, they gave the best score and best book award outright to Sunset Boulevard.
Oh, yeah.
Why?
That. Yeah.
Because there were no other shows that had scores or books that original scores and original books that season, so they just gave it to them. This is the... Yes.
Sick!
That was the that's the only reason that, I mean, that was the season that we started Playbill.com, so it was hard to get news, is what
I got it. Yeah. Well, this was before Disney encroached on 42nd Street. So
Disney was in the process of encroaching at that point. Yeah, so there was something to cover there.
And you know who else? That fraudulent guy was trying to make inroads.
The fraudulent guy. He was yes.
Canadian.
That's right. Garth Drabinsky.
Thank you. Yeah. So that was happening too. So I didn't realize it took like 2 or 3, 4 years for play. How long between like sitting down with the can we name the publisher?
Up to you. It's your podcast.
Well, I don't want to put you in any kind of uncomfortable. Are you still connected in any way?
No, I'm retired. I'm retired from Playbill. I retired in 2018.
Retired.
Yes.
So your pension and all that sort of thing. Yeah. You smart man. Oh, I was so stupid. I couldn't take it no
they
more.
Were kind
I
of pushing out people at the high end of the
salary
that too. Level, but you know.
Oh, so but you have no hard feelings then?
Not really. No.
Okay, good. Good. Okay.
I know you do have hard feelings.
I do have. Well,
yes.
Well, no. We can talk about this if you're okay.
Let's talk
about how I got your job.
Talk about how I got my job. Okay. When I was a teenager, in Franklin Square, Long Island.
Yeah.
I had a dream. I had a dream, Dave, and that was I wanted to. I love theater. I wanted to start a daily newspaper that would put theater on the front page every day.
Your mouth to God's ears.
Well, I mean, if you look at the newspapers, and I'll say newspapers because at that point that was the dominant media, and so you want it to be in newspapers. They're not the little skinny things that you can see sunlight through the way they are now. But they were, when you got that Sunday Times, that was a big fat newspaper. I mean, you would get a hernia lifting that thing up. Anyway, Dave did. That's right. And he showed it to us.
It actually really is true. I had a hernia when I was working at Playbill. Yeah.
We wanted to. I was working. I started as an intern. I started working for my local newspaper, the Franklin Square Bulletin. I had a column in the Franklin Square Bulletin, Franklin Square Bulletin, and so my column was called "Theater in the Square." Thank you. And I would review shows in New York, and I'd review shows on Long Island. And
so, wait, can I ask, was that your first connection of any kind besides being a theater fan? You had no other jobs in the theater. You had no other theater teaching experience. Did you study theater in college or anything like that?
I was originally going to be a veterinarian. And I was in pre-vet at Hofstra subsequent to this. But I did love theater. Oh. And I also worked for the Hofstra Chronicle. I was the theater critic and eventually arts editor for the Hofstra Chronicle. And I just found that I enjoyed working in the newspaper office much more than I enjoyed going to the lab. And so when I was between my sophomore and junior year, I changed my major to communications. So I actually have major in communications, minors in chemistry, biology, and theater.
Wow! Wow! Wow!
So, that was fun. But I always loved theater, and I wrote for the Franklin Square Bulletin starting when I was 17.
Right.
And then the reason I was working for the Chronicle at Hofstra so I could get free tickets to shows.
Sure, of course.
I loved seeing shows, and I had this, and then all the students, one day I came into the Chronicle office and all the students were there filling out something. I said, what is that? They said, Newsday has a program where they have a summer internship for aspiring journalists. And I said, well, that sounds interesting. I think I'll apply too. And suddenly it was like Cinderella and the Ugly Stepsisters. And they're like, you're not a journalism major. You're a biology major. I was a biology major at the time. And they said, they're not going to let you go in there. You know, you're Cinderella. Go and pick lentils out of the fireplace. You're not going to get this. And I said,
I've done that too, by the way. Yeah.
So I filled out a form, and I was a very enthusiastic form. I included my theater reviews and things like that. And I think you know where the story is going. I was the only person from Hofstra who was chosen for this internship. In fact, there are only 2 people from all of Long Island were chosen for this. Another one actually was a young lady who lived here in Hewlett and now writes for the New York Post, Barbara Hoffman.
Oh, okay.
The 2 of us were the 2 that were chosen that summer to be interns. So, meh.
So who was it? Jan? Who? Yeah, you kind of get sucked into watching yourself on the screen there. But who was? It wasn't Linda Weiner then. Who did you study with at Newsday in terms of learning about the theater? Or would it have been?
There was
Jan somebody. Or,
no, it was a gentleman who had been George Oppenheimer.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
There's an Oppenheimer Award that's given, and Oppenheimer was a good guy, but they actually for some reason didn't put me in what was then called Part 2. They didn't put me in the arts section of the paper.
Of course.
They put me in news, and I mean, my background, I worked hard news. I covered fires and murders and elections, which are actually kind of very similar. I
don't know if you remember that. I'm going to break in on this because I don't know if you remember this, but when I interviewed when you interviewed me for the job, and I was doing very well in the interview, but then there was one thing that you were worried about. When I was stating my qualifications, how I love theater, and I said, well, I mean, we cover it, we get it, but it's like covering a fire or whatever. And you're like, no, you're exactly like,
it's exactly what it's like. And I wanted, so let me just back up a little bit. Working for these newspapers, I looked at the newspapers and I was like, theater is the engine that drives New York City. I mean, all the other things that kind of spread outward from that, but that is the grain of sand at the center of the pearl in New York. I mean, I'm very alarmed now that they've stopped the Broadway shows. But I said, they put sports on the front page sometimes. Politics, of course, always on the front page. Crime. Why isn't Broadway on the front page? The only time they would ever put theater on the front page is when there was some kind of a scandal. And so I imagined what it would be like to start a newspaper that would put theater on the front page every day. And I mentioned this to some of the other reporters there, and they're like, they're like, you want this to be national? Don't forget that our economic model is based on the fact that 12-year-olds on bicycles deliver our product. Now, of course, it's grown-ups who throw it out the window of the car. But in those days, it was 12-year-olds on bicycles. I said, you're going to have to hire 12-year-olds on bicycles all across the country to deliver this thing, to get enough people reading it in order to make it economically possible. So I was like, oh, well, so I just kind of put it in the back of my head, and then the internet came along. And suddenly I realized I could create my daily newspaper that put theater on the front page every single day. I didn't have to worry about 12-year-olds on bicycles.
And you didn't have to worry about fires and floods. You could just do theater.
Well, if there are fires and floods sometimes in the theater. Look what's happening right now. If you remember, we were a theater newspaper with a sports section. Because we would cover the Broadway Bowling League in the winter, and we'd cover the softball league at Central Park in the summer.
Okay,
we had a sports section.
And an obituary.
And an obituary section, that's right.
Yeah, that's true.
So then I needed a reporter.
Well, but not weather. You didn't do weather.
We would do weather. When the snow closed the Broadway theaters, we covered that.
Weather, you did. Yes,
we covered that.
Okay.
It was a newspaper. I came from the hard news background, and I created something that was treating Broadway like hard-breaking daily news.
You said you created, I mean, how did you link up, or as opposed to just doing something yourself? How did this sort of...
Well, I was working for a company called Prodigy, which was an online...
Yeah.
Don't forget...
AOL was like...
Don't forget, this was before they had browsers.
Wow.
Before there were browsers, they used to have these online services, AOL and Prodigy and CompuServe and things like that. Because if you didn't know the URL of the site you were looking for, there was no way to find it. Then along came Mosaic, which was the first browser, where you could put in the name of something you were looking for and it would find the URL for you. Now we take these things for granted, but there was a time before all of this. This is how long I've been doing this. And then, because when I was working for Prodigy, and I was what was called a producer, which is a grandiose title for what I did. Basically, what would happen is in those days, magazines, big magazines, the president would read in a business magazine, you have to get on this thing called the World Wide Web. And they would call in the vice president and say, get us on the World Wide Web. And the vice president would go into a panic because they had no idea what it was. And they'd come to us and they'd be like, oh, we got to put our magazine on the World Wide Web. Help, help, help. And I would say, well, what would you like to put on? What information? They said, well, we're thinking of putting all our old back issues on. That would be great. People can look up all our back issues. I said, that's not the way the web works. The web is interactive and it's immediate. You have to have something that changes not once a month, not once a week, not once a day. You have to have something that changes constantly, and you have to have a way for people to respond, to give you feedback, and you have to be able to respond to them. That is the essence of how the web works. And so I started doing this. And one day, my supervisor called me and she said, I have a magazine you're going to love. Because she knew that I had continued to write about the theater for various publications. And I also, on Prodigy, I was what was called the theater expert, where people would send in questions like, what's the best seat in the theater? What should I wear on Saturday night? Questions like that, and I would answer.
By the way, the answer is no underpants.
No underpants. Yeah. Well, that's Dave's thing. I hired Dave, by the way, despite the fact that he came to the interview wearing white socks. And I have to say, Dave is wearing white socks today.
Hold on. Oh. There they are.
Please.
There hangs my way.
Please, my friend.
Well, you noticed that?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
And the no pants also.
That's why they were so visible, yeah.
So they called me in and they said, we have a magazine you're going to like. It's called Playbill.
Oh, well, you knew Playbill.
Of course I knew Playbill, but they wanted to be on the World Wide Web. And there was, as I said, they did not have a website. There was no, having a website was actually hard to find. What you wanted to do was get on one of these online services, because then people could find you.
Right.
So they came to me and I spoke to them and they said, well, I said to them, well, what do you want to put on? What would you want to do? What would you like? What information do you want to put? They said, we'd like to be the encyclopedia of theater on the internet. We'll put all of our who's who's on your service, and then people can look up anybody that they want to look up, and it'll be the encyclopedia of theater on the internet. And I said, do you want to sell ads? I said, I noticed that you're ad-based, and playbills are free. One of the few things that are still free about going to the theater. Yeah. I noticed they're free, so I must be ad-supported. Do you want to sell ads? I said, yes, we do. And I said, do you see any ads in the encyclopedia? When you open the encyclopedia, are there any ads in there? Versus when you open the newspaper. They used to have ads, by the way, in the newspaper. They used to have a lot of ads. And I said, versus the newspaper. What you want to be is the newspaper of theater on the internet. And they said, well, is there enough news? I said, it depends how you define news. I mean, if you only define opening nights as the news, then no, there's not going to be enough. But if you define when tickets go on sale, when a theater is chosen, when a major actor is hired, anything like that, if you define all these things as theater news, something that theater people, when cast albums are released, when if there's a discount, anything like that, if you count that as news, if you define that as theater news, you'll have plenty of theater news. I bet you'll have 2 or 3 stories a day. Now you have to realize at a certain point we were moving 30 to 40 stories a day. Yes, we as well, because you were writing.
I was writing 10 of them, yeah.
They hired me on that basis, and that's how I got to and we got to start. I came in one day into what used to be the conference room. There were computers in boxes, and they were just like, go to it, champ.
Was Andrew there at that point?
Koo, no. Koo came later.
Okay.
I'm talking about Andrew Koo. Right?
Yeah.
No, he came later.
Because he was the tech savvy. Yeah.
Well, we had another guy. We had another guy who was our tech guy. And it just started from there. It just went rolling. I have to say the early days were kind of the Wild West. I have a story.
Yeah.
You may remember this. This is now the mid-90s, and there was a war going on. A civil war was going on in Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia was breaking up into the constituent republics. All wanted to be independent. Now, in those days,
back then I was one of the kings of Yugoslavia.
That's
so
right.
That's how I remember this. Yeah.
That's right. Kerning. You have to realize during this time, one of the things that websites would do, and we did eventually get a website, and we eventually closed down as those services closed down. Once there were browsers, we had a website, we could control it, we could put ads on it, we could do all sorts of things.
Right.
Then we switched over to that. So in those early days of websites, what would happen is websites would have a feature called Website of the Week, or Website of the Day, or whatever, and they would promote other websites. And they would, I would get an email from somebody saying, we're going to promote playbill.com as our website of the week. Please promote us. So then, these are the days when you had like hundreds, if not just dozens of readers. And so you were doing anything you
Yeah.
could to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And so you would promote yourself here and there and everywhere. So one day I'm sitting there and I get an email from the Croatian Provisional Government website. Croatia was one of the constituent republics of Yugoslavia, and it was trying to break away from Yugoslavia.
okay.
And they were having a horrendous war over this. And I got an email from them saying, we have chosen Playbill.com as site of the week on the Croatian Provisional website. And so we hope you will promote us on Playbill.com. And I tried to imagine what this was like over there. You know, they're fighting. Stop! Whoopi Goldberg is going to replace Nathan Lane in the Forum revival. Can you believe it? Zelchko. Whoopi's going into Forum. And I'm trying to imagine from the Serbian side, going, you Croatian dogs. She's going to be terrible. I hate her. She just rubs me the wrong way. And they go, no, it's a very bold, non-traditional casting. No, you dogs, you pigs. A black woman as playing a slave? It's terrible. It's poor taste. No, she's brilliant. She can do anything. So that was what it was like.
I didn't realize
In
maybe the
early
funniest
days.
guest I ever had since Gilbert Gottfried was on here. Oh my God.
Morty's here?
That's what that was what it was like in the early days of Playbill.com.
Wait, how did it work out with the Croats? I mean, what did
I didn't put there's nothing
Oh, you
that
couldn't figure
I did
anything?
not reciprocate.
Oh, man.
I did not reciprocate. The person who was the boss of Playbill would have. I would have gotten the phone would have actually jumped off the desk if I had put them as site of the week on Playbill.
Well, you go your way, and
That's
they went
right.
theirs.
If you remember, also in the early days, we had one of the things they used to have these little avatars, like a little figure that would guide you through the site. So we created a figure. Do you remember? We actually created a bunch of figures for different parts of the site, but the main site guide was a chorus girl named Lulu. And Lulu was dressed in tights, and she was like a chorus girl. And we loved her, and she was great. And the readers liked her, except some did not. They thought it was sexist to have her. So we put her in a long dress, but eventually we eliminated her and all the little avatars off the site.
You heard what happened. Harvey Weinstein raped her.
Oh, my God.
It was terrible.
Poor thing.
Horrible. No, but remember how we all made fun?
I'm glad he got the 23 years or whatever the heck it is he got.
No, but do you remember how we made fun back in the day of our chief closest rival, which was Theater Mania? And they had the Theater Man, and we thought that was so ridiculous. There was a guy in a big afro wig who went around asking like questions in Times Square, and he looked like this bewigged hippie dude, and we were all like, Theater Mania is going nowhere. That's never going to take off. Well, we were kind of wrong about that one. Yeah, but Playbill did.
The avatars all disappeared. That was another early day thing. So we had Dave as our reporter, and Dave used to call people up. But Dave was never really happy, and so he would show his rebellion in different ways.
How?
Started with the socks.
That wasn't rebellion. That's how I dress.
Moved on to the sheep.
Wait, what did I do with a sheep?
You had sheep all over your computer. You had sheep on the floor. You had sheep pictures up, and the sheep. We were alarmed by the sheep. And then you also used to spend a lot of time watching South Park on your computer.
No, I didn't.
You totally did. You would laugh hysterically. And I said, "What's so funny?" And then you'd like play it out loud so we could hear it.
Yeah.
So
I don't remember that at all. I'm so busy working.
I was the supervisor. I remember it.
Oh my God.
So Dave rebelled in certain ways.
Well, I learned my lesson about the socks, though. I don't know if you know this story or if you remember it. I'm sure you remember that. I like to be comfortable at work, and if I could go work in pajamas, I would, right? And especially, I was a very, you say productive. I produced a lot of work.
A tremendous amount, no question.
But so if I'm working,
we had somebody else who will remain nameless as the reporter, and he just could not understand that you had to write a lot of stories when you were a reporter.
Yeah.
And
Well, it was a different era. I mean, he
It
came from an
was-
era when he did 2 stories for a newspaper a week, and that was
And
fine.
it was very hard to
Yeah.
get him to understand what it was that
Yeah.
we were doing.
No,
and
that's-
so Dave was his replacement.
Oh.
And it was hard. Honestly, it was hard to find people in those days who had any experience with writing for the web. Dave had a little experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was. Now, that's where most journalists work. They work on the web. But in those days, it was very hard to find people who actually had some experience. I mean, I had been on the web since 1980, and one of the few people actually has web credits from the 1980s. Yes. Many of the people watching this weren't even born then, but I was already working on
That's
it.
right. I think I had
I'm 1,000 years old. Anyway.
I think I had a few stories on like the Saturday Evening Post online thing that was a sort of an offshoot of AOL, and I had some theater stuff there. I forgot about that. But let me tell you, I do want to share the footwear story because I like to be comfortable. And I've got these big, white, nasty bunion feet.
Nasty.
Right? Yeah.
Is the key
So
to that.
I would wear no shirt. I would take my first thing when I got in the room. I turned on the computer because it took 10 minutes for the computer to boot up.
Tell the bathroom story.
That's what I'm literally going there. That's exactly where I'm going. And I wouldn't want to bother putting my shoes on every time I left my desk to go talk to somebody, to go down the hallway to get whatever, a coffee or something. So even to the bathroom. I mean, I'll just toggle over the bathroom. No big deal. Well, we had a fellow working at Playbill, you'll remember this, who was an advertising guy. And he started at Playbill as a copy boy during World War II.
Mhm.
You know who I'm talking about?
World War One, I believe.
Now you're talking.
Spanish-American War.
Civil War.
When cavemen were battling. He was a really nice guy. And the reason they kept him on was the nice, I mean, he didn't really do that much, but he didn't have to, because if the advertising people were having trouble with the company, he knew the CEO of the company for the past 40 years.
He was like the guy Willie Loman admires, who can just pick up his phone and just do business by making one phone call.
Yeah. And
that
save
guy
the
worked
day.
at Playbill.
Yeah, he did. He worked at Playbill for 60-something years.
Mhm.
He did. But he was blind at that point. He was basically blind. And he would go to the bathroom. You didn't know this story? You didn't know this happened to me? Oh my God! And we knew when he would go to the bathroom.
We're in the too much information part of this.
It was fantastic. What was his name? We can say his name.
Don't say his name.
No,
Don't
not
say
to say
his
no.
name.
Not we're going to embarrass him.
Honestly, I don't even
I have too
remember
much
it.
respect for him. No.
But the point is, he would go to the bathroom, and you knew
You
when he'd been to the
assume.
bathroom.
You don't know it was him. You assume.
True.
It could have been Robert.
You
It
know.
wasn't me.
Yeah.
Well, you ever have that thing where you take a pee and it's bifurcated? Did that ever happen to you? Where it doesn't come out in one stream, it comes out sort of like two, and you can't really never
That might be
never
a thing,
happened.
but that's a disease.
Okay. Anyway, but it wasn't him. It wasn't me. And this one time, I'm hanging in the bathroom. I've got stuff on my mind, whatever story I'm writing, and I realize that my white socks are now no longer dry. Robin is just sitting there.
He's horrified.
And I look down, and I'm just standing in this old guy's pee.
You assume. Allegedly.
Allegedly. I'm standing in lemonade. There's lemonade. Someone spilled lemonade in the bathroom. And from then on, I'm like, okay, when I leave my desk, the shoes go back on. And
I thought you usually paid extra for that, Dave.
Yes, indeed. You know what I'm saying? So what other accent? Because I remember this also you didn't know was that after you had that conflagration, the blow up with the publisher, and I was whatever, I got onto your computer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was sort of like the same day, so there was no time to leave or whatever anything.
Right.
And I saw at one point when you had emails back and forth between you and the publisher, and frustrated with my weirdness or whatever, and he wrote to me and said, "What are we going to do with that talented eccentric?"
Mm-hmm.
And I actually took that as a compliment.
That's the tombstone. On the tombstone.
Talented,
Eccentric.
eccentric. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's true. So what was it what happened was, and I did, and I always felt a little bit guilty about this, but not guilty enough not to have done it. But I felt guilty that the day that you / were fired, I took a job, and they called me in. I asked for more money, and we're desperate. They gave it to me, and as opposed to saying, "No, I stand with Robert. You take him. I'm walking."
I appreciate your courageous stand.
Yeah, I did not.
But, in
But
theater,
what the hell was the
isn't
argument
it
about?
The show goes on no matter what, right? Someone could break a foot on stage, and you got to.
They would have hired somebody else. It might as well be me and my bank account. So what was it that? Because you almost punched the guy. I think. And
No,
no?
I did not. That's not my way. I mean, I'm not a very peaceful guy.
Kicked him? No. Did you
Wait,
bite him?
Did you cast a spell? Any
There was
kind of
no.
spells,
My problem was that I'm big. I'm 6'4".
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
250 pounds, and
and
I think he felt just intimidated.
But was it a silly argument that just because he was the guy's? I don't know if he's polar or whatever his problem is. He's just there are times when he's normal.
About him.
Oh, you don't want to talk about.
I'd rather not talk about.
Okay, fine.
I'd rather not talk.
Did you
about him.
resent?
This is like a personnel thing.
Okay, fair enough. Did you resent that I took the job?
No.
Didn't occur. No.
I mean, you had offered to stand with me.
Oh, did I do that?
Yes, you did.
Oh, I don't
and I
remember
said,
Oh.
I said no. I said, yeah, that's ridiculous. Don't
Oh, I don't remember that I
don't
did
crater
that.
your career.
Oh.
And so I was,
Huh.
I had given you my blessing.
I'd forgotten that. Huh.
By
Well,
the way,
I'm glad
I saw a house with Christmas lights on the block, and I thought, oh, that must be Dave's house.
Definitely
Because
not.
ironically, that would be something you would do. An
Oh, just for
ironic
the
thing
sheer,
that you
yeah.
would do, yes.
No,
but
that's our neighbor who has a fish, a big bass fish, as his mailbox. We'll show you later.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
that was
it's
kind of
quite
fun.
scary.
No, but if I were decorating with Christmas, I think it would be sheep in a Santa suit
Mm-hmm.
and
Something
things like that.
Yeah,
Santa being eviscerated with knives, or that would be my.
But the idea of
decoration.
having Christmas lights up so far from Christmas, I think, would have been also
Oh,
sort
yeah.
of a Davy sort of a thing.
Definitely.
Maybe too subtle.
Well, except now everybody's Christmas in July. It's not Crazy Eddie ruined that for everyone. He made it. What is it? QVC.
Yeah.
They sell Christmas ornaments in July. You can't even do it. It's just it is anyway. Nothing funny about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And by the way, just to get back to the other
sure.
thing, we buried the hatchet, and I went back
Oh,
and worked
I
for a
know
long
that.
time. I worked
Yeah.
for longer the second time.
In
than
fact,
I
you
did
got
first
the
time.
second job that I really wanted. You started Playbill Radio.
Started Playbill Radio and Playbill Books, and Playbill Travel, and
Yeah.
a lot of things for that company. So that story kind of had a happy ending.
Anyway, I'm very happy. I'm so glad that you retired and you didn't just quit and said, "Ah, the hell with all these people." No, that's way cool.
Mm-hmm.
Do you miss it?
To a certain degree, but I'm teaching now and working on book projects, and I do write for a small website.
What website?
It is called Arts Independent, artsindependent.com. And we do not just Broadway, we do off-Broadway and off-Broadway.
Cool.
Which is the off-Broadway and off-Broadway are the only theaters that are functioning in New York now.
Well, at the moment, yeah. Like as of 2 days ago, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to see a show tonight, as a matter of fact.
What the hell's playing? What are you seeing?
I'm going to see a show. I don't know the title of it. I see so many shows. I'm sorry.
No, good. Yeah.
I should know the title.
Where is it?
It's at Urban Stages in the West 30s.
Okay.
Which is nice because I could take.
Well, hey, we can look it up in Performing Arts Insider, the Bible of Broadway. Let's see. Well, I don't have it listed by place though.
Mm-hmm.
I can look it up on the computer.
No, well, yeah, actually you could, but it's all right. Yeah. Any other things to remember about it?
It's a singer who is primarily going to be telling her story or telling a story.
It's not the Miss America one, right?
It's not the Miss America one.
Because what's her name? Bess Meyerson's daughter just did a solo, but that was not it. Oh, anyway, so enjoy. So, how is your schedule? Obviously, neither of us has seen Broadway shows. Do you have a bunch of off things lined up that are still?
Yes, but I mean, we're going to have to wait and see. What's going to go on and what's not going to go on. So
I haven't even gotten to my list of questions for this man. By the way, he's Robert Viagas.
You have a very good banter. I like your banter.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Yeah, very good.
Well, don't forget, I also when I started Playbill Radio, I was on. We started the Broadway channel on what's now Sirius XM. It was just Sirius in those days, and so I used to host a daily show. I used to do shows on there. I used to do the news at the top of the hour, and our slogan was, and we used to call ourselves Radio Playbill.
Oh, well, yeah.
Radio Playbill from the heart of Broadway.
Wow.
But were you still in Woodside?
No, actually, I was the Sirius headquarters on 49th Street.
Yeah.
Oh, better.
See, I'm doing this show from the anus of Broadway. That's basically where we are at this moment.
So they also have a note about coronavirus at your.
Yeah, there it is. That's what I'm going to see. Charmed Life.
Charmed Life. Okay.
Tonight.
Let me tell the folks a little bit about Charmed Life by going into. I have to do this plug here. By going into Performing Arts Insider, the Bible of Broadway. Let's hope it's in here.
Singing from soul singing to opera star.
Yeah, there we go. That's what I'm going to see tonight.
Let's see. Oh, it's not in this issue. Go figure. Just my luck. Just go figure it.
Ladies and
Anyway.
gentlemen,
It's-
David Lefkowitz.
It says comedy, storytelling, and opera rolled into one.
Comedy, storytelling, and opera rolled into one.
Perfect.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
It's
No,
a limited engagement.
I think tonight might have to be the final performance. I mean, a lot of
you
these
think
shows
they're-
are shutting down, but
Yeah.
we'll see.
Well, I mean,
So I see a lot of shows. I still see a lot of shows.
Yeah.
I do all sorts of things, and I may have a big job announcement.
Well, it is the last one.
Yeah, there we go.
They're pausing it after tonight.
They're pausing
it
it
after
Final.
tonight. I think the idea is with Arts Independent. I know the idea is that there's so much of the most vital theater in New York gets done in these small theaters.
Yeah.
And because so few of the major media cover those theaters or any theater at all, that a lot of these things, they come and go, and they're like, as they said in Blade Runner, they're like tears in the rain. They just disappear.
Yeah.
And so what we're trying to do is not necessarily to write reviews so that people will run out and see it, because a lot of the performances, the schedules are very brief.
Well, 3 weeks. They can't be
They
more than
close
yeah.
before the reviews out.
So that
yeah.
there's a record that the show was there and who was in it
Yeah.
and what it was about and what was done and whether it was
Well, that was
good or not.
the Uber idea 25 something years ago when the Off Broadway review came out,
Mhm.
and they were doing that, and then it lasted a bit.
So
I mean,
that-
they still be there.
So that's what we
yeah.
tried. That's what we tried to do. We tried to make a permanent record of some of these shows, especially these very worthy off Broadway and off Broadway
Sure.
shows.
Absolutely.
But we also do the Broadway shows because we want people to we like to have a mass readership.
Well, yeah,
as
you bring in
well.
the eyes, and then they'll scroll through and maybe
That's
read
right.
about these other kinds or smaller.
So I felt
shows
that I
that
could
happen.
lend my
Yeah.
whatever.
Well,
I used to
wanna-
tell
yeah.
my boys used to say, "Dad, are you famous?" Because I used to appear on television shows and things like that. I used to tell the boys, "I'm that famous," and so I'm trying to parlay that much fame rather than endorsing some big political cause, which no one will care whether I like it or not. I feel like this is something that I can give
You're
back.
endorsing theater.
To
Yeah.
give back to the community after so many years.
Absolutely. So, but you hinted at
Yes,
a major job.
I may have a
announcement.
major job announcement.
But you can't. No,
I was hoping to do it today, but because all the
Oh,
theaters
because of all
shut
the crowd.
down this
Yeah.
week, suddenly they're like, let's put this on hold for a couple of days. So I was hoping to make this the place
crap.
that I announced this.
Well, you can
You'll
tell
have to
me, and
come
I'll
back.
tell next week. Oh no, absolutely. I mean, you can see how much fun we're having. We should just co-host the show every week. You know? Yeah. Oh, I can't. I can only do it like the Fritz Feld.
Fritz Feld. Oh,
Yes, we know who that is.
That's right.
And I try to be the best Arnold Stang.
That was
I'm sorry, I'll be
that was
quiet.
my
Do that.
Curly. That
Do
was
that
my
again.
Curly Howard. That was my Curly Howard.
See, this is why the guy's going to be getting the big bucks at the new theater job he's got. Is it at the website I mentioned before?
No.
No. It's a different,
No.
different thing.
No,
Okay.
no.
Just curious.
New big new thing.
New thing
New thing.
about theater. Oh my God! Take me!
What is it?
I'm a shit-paying day job. Take me!
What is it? What
Just
is
like last time. You can't say it.
I
it?
can't
Is it
say
secret?
it. I
Is
can't
it
say
a,
it.
under contract?
That I'm waiting for. That's the thing. Contract was supposed to come Thursday, the day the
day.
sky fell,
Yeah.
and they were like, "Let's see, is this going to last 2 weeks? I mean, it's going to last at least 30 days. We know that."
Is
But-
it in person the thing you're thinking, or is it something virtual?
It is both.
Yeah. The problem, if you look up, remember that the screen is sort of reversed. It's a
Okay.
very weird.
Oh, that
thing.
you never look at me. I don't.
Yeah. Robert is
just
actually
say
sitting
that
to my
he's a-
right. But
Oh,
when I see
really?
him, he's it's a bizarre thing. So, did you ever? No, let's go through some things, and we will have to have you on again because I literally not gotten to one question.
So ask
yet.
one question.
I will.
If you do your cabaret show, you should have him on your show.
Well, hell yeah.
He'd be a great guest.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No question about it. Let me speaking of interview. I'm having a fantastic time interviewing Robert Viagas, who was the founding editor of Playbill.com, will be a major player in some other thing. He's also got
That's a
this
secret.
website that he writes theater reviews for, and you are a theater professor
Professor of theater at Five Towns
Five Towns
College.
College,
Yeah,
right.
Where is the Five Towns College?
It's nowhere near Five Towns. It's
That's
in Dix
what-
Hills.
Where is it?
It's in Dix Hills.
Yeah.
Is that Suffolk?
I know Dick had all those
Suffolk.
hills.
It's Western Suffolk.
So why
Yeah.
is it called Five Towns?
They have towns in Suffolk,
Oh.
and they have five. They have more than 5 towns.
Hmm.
And you teach theater history there.
Theater
but
history.
Any other?
Right now, I just teach theater history.
Cool.
And he's going to do it online.
I go back. I go back to the earliest days, and back to Thespis.
Wow.
Ooh,
Well, I do like thespians.
There we go. Well, that's why they're called thespians. They're named after
We
Thespis.
quoted Thespis in the article.
Yeah, oh, yeah. When we were, yeah.
Do you know who Thespis was?
I don't remember. No,
Thespis.
I was trying to look smart, but no, I have no clue.
Don't forget, a lot of the early Greek theater grew out of storytelling, and they would have storytellers who would go around and who would say, "Well, the gods did this, and then the gods did that, and then Zeus did this," but according to legend, Thespis, who was one of these traveling storytellers, was the first one who stood up, and instead of saying Zeus did this, he said, "I am Zeus, and this is what I did." So he was the first actor.
And megalomaniac.
And megalomaniac,
yeah.
that's right.
Psychotic.
And he would not appear just telling a story. He would appear as the subject of the story.
No, that's
And that is why thespians are called thespians, because they inherit. See, you should come to all of you out there should come to my class, because I am full of this.
Well, are grown-ups allowed to take, or is it
anyone can take it? Anyone can take
cool,
it. That's
cool.
right.
How many kids do you have in your history class? I mean,
about 26. No, 21. I had 21 kids.
Wow,
21.
That's super nice.
That's small.
Do you know the Mask of Comedy and Tragedy?
Yeah.
And do you know who they are?
Okay, there. Let's see. Donald Trump and Mike Pence. No, who are
Close.
Yeah.
They are. They have names. The
Irving and Maurice.
That's Bud and Lou. They are Bud and Lou. Now, Thanos and Melpomene.
Okay.
The comedy is Thanos.
Okay.
And the tragedy is Melpomene. And if you
were they gods? Were they spirits? I mean,
they were below gods.
Oh, okay.
They were. I'm trying to think. That's why I'm fumphing here. I'm trying to remember what the word is. I'm having a blank at the moment. They were not furies.
They were home health aides when God was under the weather.
That's right. And if you look at the beginning of Disney's Hercules, they have a song, and Thanos and Melpomene are actually in the song.
Oh,
and
cool.
They're holding their little masks. So I played that for the students just to say that I'm not making this up. This is something that's actually out there.
Is it tough to keep, because this is a wide body? These aren't necessarily people who are going to go into theater and stuff. Is it tough to
Some
keep
of
them
them are.
interested?
No, at Five Towns, most of them want to go.
They're
want to do it
artistic people,
professionally.
that's right.
Yes, it's an arts college.
Because I'm wondering if it's tough to keep them interested up until you get to the point of like 1950, and then they wake up. Or are you able to...
The course is taught in two parts. It's taught in the beginnings of theater up to 1900, and then the spring part is 1900 to the present.
Yeah.
Because a lot's been going on the last couple of years.
Well, we've
not
had the
this
internet.
week, not this week, but
yeah.
up till now, a lot has been going on.
Let me ask you, I was going to say that I'm having a fun time with this interview, but I remember you telling me about the worst interview you've ever done.
Uh-oh.
It wasn't your fault.
Mm-hmm.
It was the actor's fault. Do you remember which? I can tell you who it was.
I've had a number of really bad...
Oh, let me have you tell me who, and then I'll, just in case, I'll tell you who I think it was. But who's some of the worst?
Some of the worst.
Well, you just wanted to shoot yourself and then them.
How about if I tell you about the worst performance I've ever seen?
Oh.
The worst performance that I ever saw, and I've seen a lot of performances.
It was called The Miracle of Long John's, a solo show.
It was a touring company of a funny thing. Another funny thing happened. It's a theme. It was a touring company, very low level tour. You've heard of first class tours, and you've heard of bus and truck tours.
Yeah.
Well, about 10 levels below that was this tour of a funny thing happened on the way to the Forum that appeared at the Emmeline Theater in Mamaroneck, New York.
Yeah.
And an actor named Jack Carter, who I will not mention, was playing Pseudolus.
Wait a minute, Jack Carter was a comedian, right?
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yes, he was. Jack, they arrived in a school bus, and they were late, and the curtain went up late. And it became apparent very quickly into Comedy Tonight that Jack had not memorized the script. So he tried to ad-lib his way through the script of a funny thing happened on the way to the Forum, which is hard enough on its own. But don't forget, this is Stephen Sondheim lyrics. So...
Well, he hadn't memorized the song either?
He had not memorized. He had memorized it in pieces. And so he would kind of fumfer his way through the song.
Okay.
And he would leave out scenes. And the poor actors that he was working with were trying desperately to like, I understand this. You have a ring with a gaggle, these sort of things to kind of help him. And it just got worse and worse. And then intermission came, and a lot of people left.
You stayed.
I wanted to stay because I wanted to see how bad it was going to get, because I realized that this was going to be a legendary performance.
Oh, God.
And I knew that someday I'd be on like a radio show and I would be able to tell this story. So I needed to stay till the end, and boy, am I glad I did. Because at the end of the show,
it's actually painful.
They stumbled through this. A funny thing happened on the way to the forum. She's Lovely, where only Hysterium knew the lyrics to She's Lovely.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But it's a duet.
You only... Oh, I see.
Yeah.
No.
Awkward.
I thought only Jack Carter didn't know his... So there were other...
No. The other people knew their lines. It was only the...
when he was in that song.
Only
right?
the pseudolist didn't know
okay.
his lines. And when it got to the end of the show...
Oh, no.
The few people who were left in the audience started booing, absolutely booing the show at the end. There weren't a lot of us left, but there were enough of us left that, it made kind of a boo. And, the actors came out and bowed, and, the perfunctory applause, and Jack came out, and there was booing. There was booing.
Well, yes.
So then Jack came down, and he gave the worst curtain speech ever, where he said that the problem was that the bus driver, who was African American, he did not use that expression.
No, he did. No,
it was
he
his
did not.
fault that the bus had come late, which threw him off. But the main problem was that they had ladies in the front of the audience who were in wheelchairs.
What?
And that he could see up their dresses, and that is why he was not able to remember the lyrics.
Wow!
The funny thing happened on the way to the forum. And the boos, they were diaphragmatic boos. And we're like, boo! When people just booed and booed and booed until he just went, and he walked off the stage. And I said to myself, this is a story that will live in my heart for the rest of my life.
Yes, it will. Did he use the N word when he was?
No, he used the Yiddish.
The
Yiddish word.
Rabbi Sol knows it. Yeah.
Okay.
Even so, I think he was trying to be funny, maybe about that. It was kind of there's that story I read in the paper when Charles Durning went up on his lines when he was doing a show, and he blamed. What did he say? He said he was on his period or something like that.
He didn't mention the vagina.
Yeah, but that was just a cute little thing after the show. He just went up on his lines one time. But I've told this, I'm not going to tell the whole story because I want you to tell more stories, but I had a similar experience watching Don Amici in Our Town. When he came out and he was old. He was like 89 years old at this point. And he was a stage manager in Our Town when Spalding Gray left. So they brought in Don Amici. I mean, do you remember that production?
I remember it well, yes. I didn't see Don. I saw...
lucky. You saw Spalding Gray. It was wonderful.
It was wonderful, yeah.
Don Amici either did not know or did not remember his lines. And the thing that strikes me as so hysterical about this is that he's the one character in all of theater who could actually come out on book. He's a stage manager. Yes, that's the character. Yes. He could hold the book with his lines in it. I mean, he's just repeating himself and he's going over and over. And it was terrible.
But it was, it was not only, with this forum production, it wasn't only the fact that the lines hadn't been memorized, which is very unprofessional. Yeah. And perhaps there was a reason for it. But it was this sort of aggressive blaming of
everything
people.
Else.
Instead of saying, I'm the star, I'm the captain of the ship here, and whatever I richly deserve your booze, and I apologize, and we'll give you your money back. Something like that. That would have been a classy way of dealing with it.
Somebody's giving you a thumbs up in the watch party.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they like that. I think that's a good idea.
The man has been on Sirius XM radio with like thousands of people listening. He's like, he gets a thumbs up on Dave's Gone By. We're proud. Somebody's watching.
Thank you for that thumbs up. I give you a thumbs up back.
I said theater highs and lows.
But we didn't get to the worst interview. Maybe you're blocking it out, or maybe
no. I don't want to. I have no trouble reflecting badly on Jack, but I don't want to reflect badly on this
on this particular person.
If we're thinking of the same person,
it's the Captain Hook guy.
Cyril Richard.
No, much more recent.
Uh-huh.
And I may hopefully I'm not.
I've had a number of bad interviews, but
the man was at that time.
I had one.
Elvis.
I will say this: I did have one interview one time about somebody who had a very well-known celebrity who had written a book, and I was asking them questions about the book, and they would just say, "This is all in the book. Just read the book." And I would say, "Well,
you know why they didn't write it?"
I'd say this is we're talking about this. I read the book. That's why I'm asking you this question, because I know this is in the book. But for the people who are listening, or the people who are going to read this interview, they haven't read the book. I'd love you to talk about it. It's all in the book. It's all in the book. I would have to say that was a really
that's horrible.
That was a really bad interview because it was, and then I didn't write the story because I had nothing to write about.
Oh man!
I had no quotes other than read the book. I mean, that would have been the lead.
And make it,
Yeah, I could have. I didn't. The thing is, I had a lot of respect otherwise for this person. I had enough respect for this person that I didn't want to just get revenge on them and make them look like a jerk.
Yeah.
Because he kept saying that he wanted to. He was going to Belmont Racetrack to bet on the horses, and it was almost time for the horses to run, and he wanted to wrap up the interview fast.
Yeah.
I don't think you wrote the book. When you don't know what's
that
in
can
your
happen
book,
too.
I've written books. When you write books, you know what's in your books. If you don't know what's in your book, you didn't write the book.
Well,
all right. So
I've
what's
ghosted
the best
books myself.
Besides this one? What is the best interview that?
Oh, this is
one
by
or two.
far. This is
by far, isn't it? Yeah.
Oh
man, I have to say, I've just had some wonderful interviews. I'm sorry, my brain suddenly overloads.
And he doesn't necessarily like the most famous person who ever interviewed, like just the most fun.
It could be the we put in your coffee.
Yeah. Or the hottest babe that you can stop drooling over them while you're.
All right, I would have to say that one of the best interviews that I ever did was with Charles Strauss, the composer of Annie.
He's
and
alive.
Bye Bye Birdie. He's alive.
Yeah.
He invited me to his house to do this interview, and we talked about his whole career. He was also in the process of writing a memoir.
Oh yeah.
And he walked in and he said, "This is the piano where I wrote Annie and Bye Bye Birdie." He said, "Would you like to play it?" And so I sat down at the piano and I can play like a C. I could play a C chord.
Yeah.
I was like, perfect C chord. He's like, "Oh, you play?" And I'm like, "Yes, I do." And he would sit there and he would sit there and he would start talking about Put on a Happy Face, how they came to write Put on a Happy Face. And then he would put his hands on the keys and he'd play a couple of bars and Put on a Happy Face. And he would say how much he did not like the title of Bye Bye Birdie, and how much when they came to him, he was so embarrassed by that title. And when they made the movie, they came to him and they said, "That title is great. You got to write a song for that title." And he wrote just the cheesiest song he possibly could.
It worked though.
And they said, "We love it." He thought they would reject it.
Somebody said about your book thing. They said obviously the person didn't want to give up any info about the book and only wants people to read it. That's no fun.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I always wait for the movie to come out.
It's almost like this person did not understand how interviews work.
Right. Yeah.
Again, because I had a lot of respect for him, I didn't flame him. I didn't burn him.
No, because it's like
He was an older man also, and I just had respect for all the things that he'd done, and he wasn't treating me with a lot of respect or my readers.
But how come because you won't name him now? Why won't you say his name?
Out of respect, I don't want to make him look like an old fool, which he was being an old.
Is he alive? He's still.
No, he's not alive.
Was it that guy?
No.
What's the theater character that the Magnan one, the bad theater, the guy. The trickster. What was the name for the trickster? Theater.
Scapan.
But there's a name for a trickster role in theater.
Oh, I forget.
Harlequin. Arlecchino. Anyway, can I finish telling my best interview story?
Yeah.
Because this is a lovely story. And so we were just talking, and every time we would talk about a show, and I went to some of his less well-known shows, All American, and he played Once Upon a Time. I had Charles Strauss sitting there playing these songs for me. And then I started asking him about shows that he wrote that didn't necessarily get done. And he said one of the ones that I really loved was, we worked for years, we're on a musical of Star Wars. And I said, "You're kidding." And he said, and he'd written. He said, "I wrote a beautiful song for it," and he played a song called "My Star," which is actually on the web. You can look it up. Look up Charles Strauss Star Wars musical My Star, and you can hear this
Don't
song.
do it right now. Wait
Don't do
till
it
my
now.
show's over.
Don't do it now.
Yeah,
Wait till
yeah.
I'm off. You can do it the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
guest. I don't care.
Well, he's always been off. but-
there we go.
Right, yeah. So,
And
and he
he
played, that for you?
played this incredibly beautiful song, and he has a nice singing voice too. My star, you are my star, and it was a song
it's
for
a
Princess Leia.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I was with the press agent, and you know the scene in Hook when the
I
movie
remember
Hook.
that, yeah.
There's a scene in Hook when Tinkerbell is taking the now adult Peter to Neverland, and she knocks him out and wraps him up in a blanket, and they fly through the sky over London, and she's dripping with fairy dust.
Oh, okay. I was wondering.
And
about
they
that.
fly
Yes.
over this bridge, and there's a couple kissing on the bridge, and some of the fairy dust falls on this couple, and they float up into the air while they're kissing.
Oh, sweet.
This is what happened to the press agent and to me when he started playing My Star. The two of us just floated up into the air with delight at hearing this song. And he's a great guy. Charles Strouse is a great guy. At one point, this is before this interview, and I told him about this, I got on the downtown #1 subway in New York, and I'm riding downtown. And who do I see across from me? But Charles Strouse is sitting there with a woman, and Charles looks so sad, and he's like, has his face in his hands. I don't know what was bothering him. And nobody on the car knew who Charles Strouse was.
Yeah. They wouldn't know, with all due respect, they know Annie, they don't know.
They don't know Charles Strouse. I recently recognized Sheldon Harnick from behind at a theater. I looked at his head and I said, this is Sheldon Harnick sitting right in front of us. Anyway, so I saw him on the train, and I allowed one of the great moments of my life to pass, which was to walk over to him and start singing Put on a Happy Face to Charles Strouse. I could have done that. I just let that go because he seemed so sad, and I didn't think hearing that song would necessarily...
Did you ever ask him what he was saying about that?
I told him about that. He did not tell me what he was upset about. Okay. Although, I will say this. One story that I did tell him that was delightful. I'm very tall. I'm 6'4". My son is 6'8".
Is he a comedian, by the way?
No, my younger son, younger son, who's only 6'7", is the comedian. Yes. My older son, Ben, is 6'9", and when he was in 3rd grade, they were doing the Broadway Junior version of Annie at his school, and he went out for the to be a stagehand, and he came home, and we're like, did Miss Gage hire you as a stagehand? And he was like, no, they want me to be Daddy Warbucks. So now the school went from kindergarten to 5th grade.
They shaved his head though. That was horrible.
5th grade.
Yeah.
He needed to shave at that age. He was very precocious. They usually gave the leads to the 5th graders, but they gave it to Ben, who was in 3rd grade.
Good Lord.
But the Annie was naturally only 10,000 girls came out for it. She was in 5th grade. So I said to Charles, do you know any other production of Annie where Daddy Warbucks is 2 years younger than Annie? And he said he was not aware of a production like that. So I was very proud to be able to add that.
Wow.
Charles Strouse, legend.
Oh my
gosh.
God.
How's that for a best interview story?
That is.
I've had some wonderful interviews, but I have to say that's in the top 10.
That sounds right. Tell us one more, and then I have so many questions. So literally, but that was so good. Tell us one more about one of your best interviews, most memorable, most wonderful, delightful.
Man, so many great interviews. I once interviewed a carpenter at the New Amsterdam Theater because I collect ghost stories of Broadway theaters. I am the repository of ghost stories.
See, I'm the suppository of ghost stories.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go. And that's why he's wrapped in tinfoil. I do collect them. In fact, I do library lectures called The Haunted Theaters of Broadway.
I'll stop you right there. I'm stopping because people who are interested, I think in June you're going to be part of the authors luncheon thing at our local library.
We're working that out.
Oh, it's not even.
I have a conflict that particular day, but I would love to come and do another thing.
Yeah,
and I don't know if my lectures are in. I have none in March, thank God, but I have a couple starting in April.
Locally? Where?
Actually, the first one in April is going to be at the Franklin Square Library, my home library, where I started researching theater.
So, do you have a website where people can follow where you're going to be, or a Facebook page, or where
I have a Facebook page, yes, and it's Robert Viagas.
VIAGAS. Viagas, which is how I travel.
That's right.
Viagas.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want people to know that they can see you do what you do. And so
I have three things that I do.
Guy.
I do the 10 Secrets of Broadway.
Yeah.
I do the Haunted Theaters of Broadway, and then in April and
you got a hard ghost story. Somebody likes ghost stories.
Okay, great.
Maybe tell a
everybody
theater
loves
ghost
the
story.
ghost story.
Tell a theater ghost
Well,
story.
anyway, I'm about to with this interview with the carpenter, one of the carpenters at the New Amsterdam Theater.
Was it Karen Carpenter or Richard?
It was not Karen Carpenter. It was a guy with a big beard.
No, she was built
Karen
like a nail.
Her beard.
Right,
I was researching the ghost one of the ghosts that haunts the New Amsterdam. Olive Thomas, one of the most active ghosts on Broadway.
Okay.
She was I have a whole life story of her, but very briefly, the New Amsterdam Theater is on the ground floor. Back in the days of the Follies, the Ziegfeld Follies, there was what they called the Ziegfeld roof, the New Amsterdam roof.
Okay.
They actually had a theater on the top of the building. And in those days, before air conditioning, they would sometimes have performances outdoors.
Yeah.
The New Am, you had a thing that would open, and you could perform with it, and if it rained, they could close it. Anyway, they used to have a show up there called the Midnight Frolics, and Olive Thomas performed in the Midnight Frolics, which was a little bit more of an adult show for Ziegfeld's fans. Anyway, they have a big stage. The stage is still there. It's now used as offices by Disney. Tom Schumacher has his office on what used to be the stage. However, she used to make her entrance from the section below the stage, which is known as the trap, which is where the word trapdoor comes from, because to open the door that leads to the trap. Anyway, she used to make her entrance from there. She is known to haunt various parts of the theater, but she's most frequently seen in the trap, which is now a storage space. So I was there researching this thing, and I asked this carpenter. She appears mainly to men. I used to say exclusively to men, but I now have a story. A woman has now seen her. So I'm going to say primarily to men. The carpenter is one of the people who had seen her the most. And she's very active, and she talks, and she appears as a live person. She's not like a sheet. She appears as a live person. He said that he had seen her most frequently in the trap. So we went into the trap. And it was dark, and it was spooky, and there was like piles of things, things around, and there was a disembodied door, like a doorway, which a big heavy doorway. It was like a metal frame, big metal door, big metal doorknob, and flanges around it that you would put into a wall, and you build a wall up against it. It was obviously a piece of a set or something. But you imagine like a corporate building door that you would see. That's what it was. It was a big metal door. And
You're not going to tell me you saw. All right.
He said, "No, I didn't. Just sit tight, pal. While I spin my tail.
We're not your students.
While I spin my tail." We were in this trap, and he said, "Well, this is where we see her." But he said she doesn't like come at your beck and call. She shows up when she wants to show up, not when you want her to show up. And I said, "Well, I'm here." So I said,
"It's like a woman's period, basically."
I said,
yeah.
Okay. So anyway, we're in this. I was nonplussed by that.
Yeah, good.
We were in this room, and he said, "Call her." So I called out to her. I said, "Olive Thomas, are you there? Olive Thomas." Nothing. Nothing. So and we just kind of shrugged and laughed. And but then I remembered something. They used to have a woman named Doris Eaton Travis who used to appear at the Easter Bonnet.
Well, lucky Travis.
And I interviewed her, and I referred to her as Doris. I said, "Hey, Doris," and she's like, "I'm Mrs. Travis." And I realized that like women of that era, they used to get what they called in those days, in those very sexist days, their MRS degree. They get married, and that their identity changed to at least she kept her original name, Doris Eaton, as her part of her name. But she was known as Doris Eaton Travis and liked to be called Mrs. Travis. So I realized women of that period, they were very proud of their married name. So instead of calling out Olive Thomas, she'd been married to Jack Pickford.
Oh.
So I said, Mrs. Pickford, are you there? And all of a sudden,
No.
this metal door that must have weighed 800 pounds, it went boom. And the two of us just laughed because we didn't assume it was a ghost.
No, you didn't.
We assumed that like something had just happened at that moment. It was just a coincidence. Like, wow, that was funny. You know, the timing on that was incredible. And he said, try it again.
Mm-mm.
And I said, Mrs. Travis? And the door went boom again.
Okay.
I had it on tape and I played it on the radio.
Really?
Yes, I played the
Wow,
boom on the
wow.
radio. But actually, that's kind of a lame ghost story. But
No,
it was kind of a lame ghost story because it would have been much more interesting if I had said, and then she
And
appeared
then she-
before
right,
us,
yeah,
and she
yeah.
said, "How you doing, fella?" Which is what she used to
And
say.
she
to
looked like
people.
Beatrice Arthur, and it turned out
That's
it
right.
was Beatrice
No,
Arthur.
he said sometimes there's a spiral staircase in the trap, and he said sometimes you just see her feet walking.
Oh,
up the
come
spiral
on.
staircase. Yes, she appears as just feet. They have another ghost at the New Amsterdam Theater. That is the best ghost name of all the ghosts on Broadway. He's a disembodied shadow, and when you're walking up and down the stairs, you will sometimes see just a shadow going up and down the stairs, not like Peter Pan's shadow. It's not attached to
It
him.
was no coincidence.
Possibly.
She believes in ghost stories.
Anyway.
She said it was real.
Anyway, the disembodied ghost's name is the Black Goon. The Black Goon. That's
Who
the
names them?
best name
Who
for
names
best
them?
name for a ghost. By the way, I'll say this: if you go into any entrance to the New Amsterdam, this is how much the people at the New Amsterdam Theater believe in her and see her. You go to any entrance, you will see a picture of Olive because you have to say good morning to Olive, or else stuff happens to you.
Oh, come on.
Go into the stage door. When they open the stage door, you'll see a picture of Olive when you first walk in. When you go down, when you enter the theater from the front, there's that long passageway, and you see all the pictures of the famous Ziegfeld stars, and you'll see Fanny Bryce, and you'll see W.C. Fields, and then the last picture on the right side is somebody you never heard of. It's a picture of Olive Thomas. You have to say good morning to her as you go into the theater, or else stuff happens to you.
Even patrons?
Patrons
They
don't know.
They-
Patrons don't know. This is only people who work there.
Oh.
One of the, I have to say, there's a ghost at the St. James Theater known as the Laughing Ghost of the St. James because the ghost laughs, it's like an insane laugh during performances. And I once asked an actress who worked at the theater, we don't know the name of this ghost. We know the name of a lot of the ghosts. We don't know the name of this ghost. And I said, do you think it was like an actor or somebody who wants to? And she said, obviously, it was not a professional. No professional would disturb a performance.
Mm.
So most of these ghosts do not appear
It's
to
probably
the patrons.
critics. Yeah.
They don't. They appear after hours. They appear when the people who work in the theater.
Well, wait a minute. That's why I'm not joking about this. Isn't that the light that they put out on stage?
The ghost light.
Yeah,
That-
they call it the ghost light, right?
If you come to see one of my lectures, I will tell you the whole history of the ghost light and all the cool legends about the ghost light, etc. But I've already given you part of my Olive Thomas talk. So.
Well, no, that was wow. Because I am someone who does not believe in the paranormal. I really am. I'm, a total skeptic. So to hear stories like this, and I'm para-abnormal. Oh my God, we're talking with Robert Viagas, who is the lecturer, who is the teacher at Five Towns College of
And this is what my lectures and teaching is like.
Are you gonna,
storytelling like this?
next 2 weeks, are you going to move everything online? You're just taking the weeks off, or how does it work? Or are you teaching there? Off, yeah. Where are you in theater history right now? This is a spring semester, so what are you teaching? Miller?
We actually suspended that because of all the things that have been going on. So we're actually not going forward with it. I think the rest of the semester.
I didn't realize that.
To say.
But so wait, kids
but I'm
are
going to be
taking-
back. I'm going to be starting back with Thespis and the Greeks starting in September at Five Towns. So sign up now.
But wait a minute, how do kids? If kids are taking that class, how
can't
can they
you go
graduate?
online?
They lose
Why
the
can't
credit
you
for
go
that.
online?
Hey, how 6 canceled their opening night last week?
Yeah.
I mean, this thing is serious and it's affecting a lot of people in a lot of different ways.
But you can't go online, Robert? We were online. Yeah. They won't convert you
No.
online?
No.
Wow.
No, but I'm saying, what about the other classes they're taking at Five Towns College?
I don't know the answer to. I don't know what's happening to the other classes.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
very self-absorbed.
Well, you're looking at the king, fella. Yeah, you are looking at the king. By the way, Robert, let me ask you a quick question, because I would love to be talking to you longer. It's already noon, Eastern time, in the neighborhood.
Eastern time.
You're watching the Dave's Gone By Facebookio, Podcastio, Programmio of the Stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz. My darling and adorable wife, Joyce. This is not my adorable wife, Joyce. This is my adorable ex-boss, Robert Viagas. Find out more about him.
Get back to work.
That's right. No, he was all. And I've said this on the air before. He was a very, very good boss. I never really. We had our skirmishes, but nothing ever where I'm like, I'm going to kill my boss, and I've had bosses like that.
Mm-hmm.
Trust me. No, I thought...
you always spoke well of Robert.
I really did. Even when
God bless you both.
You did.
Yeah.
God bless us.
So can you stick around for a little while longer while we do our quiz and be part of our quiz?
You would know the answers, though.
I might not.
No, the answer... Well, that's the point. That's the thing. Now, I don't know if my cousins, Jeff and Cynthia, are with us. If you are, please tell me.
What's the point of demands you can meet?
Yeah, there we go. We do every week something called our Today, Yesterday quiz. And this is where I will ask you questions about March 14th in history. And you get to, so no fair Googling, no fair wikiing or binging. You just kind of say, hey, do I remember what happened on March 14th in 1582? Because I do. I was there. So, Robert, what I'll ask you to do is, if you don't mind, stick with us. It'll take like 15 minutes. What was that? Oh, he's sticking. I get it. I was wondering what.
That was a little bit.
See, after the 3-hour mark, my mouth stops working, my brain stops working, and it's like. But here we go. What I'll ask is, even if you know the answer, please wait until. That's because we have a delay and a lag time on this. Give them a chance to sort of get the question too. So anyway, here on Dave's Gone By, it's time for our Today Yesterday quiz, March 14th. In history, and you can play too if you want.
You know I never get these things.
All right, well, this is a cute one. We go all the way back to 1592.
So early in Shakespeare's career.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Mathematicians consider this the tastiest day of the Julian calendar. Why is that?
Oh, I know why. I know the answer.
All right, wait a sec. He's got that smile. I think he does. So all the folks are between Blake and Cal, Scott, Megan, Matthew, Monique, and bunches of people I can't see. Give it a moment, and cousin Cynthia and Jeff, if you're playing along, why is today a tasty day, specifically back in 1592? What is important about that? And I'm going to give it 1 or 2 more seconds, because they're first hearing us now. And here's my special graphic. Sirius XM doesn't lay out for these, I'll tell you.
Nothing but the best, David.
Oh, and you could do multilingual.
The son of a bitch is even funnier than I am.
Aww.
This sucks. I should never have brought you on the show, man.
He's not funnier. He's funnier in a different way.
He's had a better career.
No.
He is funnier. God damn it. He plays piano better than I do. Oh, anyway.
C chord.
Yeah, that's
he
true.
doesn't have your Jewish anger.
I can play the umbilical cord. Ding, 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 ding.
Oh, God.
Sorry. And, Robert, do you want to try giving us, and there's no penalty.
Okay.
Why was March 14th, 1592 such a tasty, tasty day?
Well, I know March 14th is 314, which is pi. That is the first 3 digits of pi. Of course, it's an irrational number, and so the digits
it makes no sense to me.
The digits go on infinitely, but 3.14 is the beginning of pi. But 1592 is the part that I am struggling with a little bit.
Well, that's the thing. It's if you go on a few more numbers, it's 3.141592.
Ah.
Those are the next 4 in the series of numbers of pi.
There we go.
So there was a good
close.
day. Yeah, like 3-4. The last one, March 14th, 2015, was pretty good because 31415 at 9:26 and 53 seconds would have been pretty decent. Do you know what pi is? I totally forgot about this. It's delicious.
The square root of 10?
No, it's the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter. Right?
But it's a number. That's the weird thing about pi. It's a number of different things.
Oh.
It's one of those numbers that where it's like speed of light. Speed of light not only is a speed, it's also a ratio. You find there's certain things that you find all over the place. I mean, E equals mc squared. It's energy mass times the speed of light squared. That number just pops in there. The ratio, the difference between energy and matter, has the number of speed of light thrown into it. You find it all different places. It's one of those creepy things about math that pops up here and there that people use as to demonstrate their belief in the thumbprint of the deity.
Or Olive. I think Olive had something to do with this.
Olive may have had something to do
because
with
it was 3.14 even, and then she monkeyed with it, and then all these other numbers came along after it.
My girlfriend has a pie plate that has, around the edge of the pie plate, has the digits of pi.
Oh, that's so cute. By the way, Mazel Tov.
Thank you.
I mean, I know you back when you were married and you had the kids, but how long have you been together with?
Not very long.
Oh,
not very long.
Oh, are you
You're
living?
married?
No.
Oh,
no, girlfriend.
It's a girlfriend.
Oh.
I know some guys are married and have a girlfriend.
We call them lucky. No,
very recent.
Kidding.
You want to see the mug fly?
Okay, sorry, dear. Let's move on to more of the quiz. More of our
quiz.
Yesterday quiz. Yesterday, 1794.
1794.
So on March 14th in that year.
The Nassau Theater I believe, was in operation at that time in Philadelphia.
Was it really?
Yeah,
these are not all going to be theater questions.
No, Nassau Theater was in New York. This is a separate theater in Philadelphia. Anyway, go ahead,
yeah. This man received a patent for his machine that separated cotton fibers from their seeds.
Right.
Name the man. No, don't say it out yet. The man and his invention.
I know the name of the invention, and I'm trying to think of what his name was.
I know his name.
I'll let you do it.
I think I know the name.
Cool.
I think I know the name.
All right, well, let's give it a moment for our viewers of this program, which, by the way, is Dave Has Gone By with me, Dave Lefkowitz.
What Megan wants to know, she said, where can I go online to hear him talk about this? She wants to hear you talk online about your ghost stories.
I'm actually, I can announce this. I'm starting a podcast. I'm actually starting 2 podcasts. One of them is going to be on the Broadway Podcast Network. We're going to launch by the end of the month. I'm just trying to pick out the creepy music that's going to be the introduction music. But it's going to be Ghost to Broadway, Broadway Ghost Stories. And I'm also doing a second podcast with my son, Ben, called Millennial versus Boomer, where he talks about theater from the point of view of a millennial, and I talk about theater from the point of view of a baby boomer. And we often disagree. We often have very different points of view on things. I find I learn a lot from him. I think he also learns a lot from me.
No,
what's it called? Give me the name of the site.
Millennial versus Boomer?
No, the site is the Broadway Podcast Network, BPN. I think it's bpnfm.com.
Oh, wow. bpnfm.com. Check it out, folks.
The Broadway Podcast Network.
There we go.
Neat. Yeah.
So I'm starting 2 podcasts. That's not my big announcement. Actually, I have a much bigger announcement than that.
But you can't say it today.
But you will be able to hear my shortened versions of my ghost stories.
She wants to hear the ghost
stories.
But
by the way, Robert has a lot of videos on YouTube that you can see at least part. I wish they were longer. They get these little half-minute snippets.
My favorite clip of myself that you can find on Facebook was done back when I was working on a book about the musical The Fantastics, and the book is called The Amazing Story of the Fantastics. And I was invited to give a talk at the theater where the Fantastics was playing. And they wanted me to talk about the history of the play for the audience before the show began. And I said, actually, I'm sorry, it was after the show. This is key. It was after the show, after the performance. People were invited to stay, and I would talk about the history of the Fantastics. And I told them that I would agree to do that under one condition. And that is that I would make my entrance on the stage through the prop box, just like the old actor. And there is a clip of me, it's a 9-second clip of me doing the sound of the drum beating, and then me pushing the lid and making my entrance through the prop box in the Fantastics. It's my favorite clip. It's one of the great moments of my life.
And it's only 9 seconds long.
9
so
seconds.
If you find him intolerable, you can tell it the first 8. And then by 9, it already fades out the way
right.
YouTube does. No, but
don't be fooled the first 2 seconds and you hear the drum beating, because that's me in the box pretending to be the Indian in the Fantastics.
We didn't even get to talk about that book. We didn't get to talk about a chorus line, for God's sakes.
I worked with the original cast of the chorus line to tell their story in our book on the line.
Are those books still in print?
The chorus line. They are. The chorus line one may still be in print.
Okay.
Because they re-released it as a paperback when they did their revival in 2006. Right. The paperback may still be in print, but the books, you can get them on Amazon.
Yeah. And what are some? Might as well tell people
I've written 19 books
on
theater.
Yeah.
Written or edited. 19 books on theater and 1 on golf.
One on golf.
One on golf.
Do you play golf?
No.
Okay.
I had a friend who was who used to write a lot of books, and he overbooked himself, literally.
Yeah.
He had.
I'm showing them.
There we go.
I told the girl, look there.
He called me up hysterically and said that this old golfer, Sam Snead, I don't know if anybody remembers him.
He was a major dude.
He was a major dude. That he'd contracted to write Sam Snead's autobiography, to ghost Sam Snead's autobiography.
Yeah.
And he said, can you help me? I like your writing, and it was one of my first books. And he said, I think you'd be great to do this. He said, do you know anything about golf? And I said, yes, I know a lot about golf. I golf all the time, which was a lie. But I had family members at that time who were big golfers, and I knew that I could do a crash course and learn all about golf from them.
Did it involve interviewing Sam Snead and talking to him?
Many times, yes, many times. And Sam was, I should have put this in his worst and best interview with both Sam, because a lot of Sam's story would start out like, Rob, you can't put this in the book, but let me tell you this story, and then he would tell me some horrendous story of sexual excess and
golfers.
I would say, Sam, I need stuff I can put in the book.
Well, wait. Sam Snead is dead.
Sam Snead.
Can you tell us?
No.
Come on, man. Does it involve the shaft or the balls?
I've told too much already.
Sam Snead.
I've said too much already. But
player.
Sam was also a great guy, and he told amazing stories of what it was like to be a hillbilly in a period of time when it was a white shoe sport. That's what they called it in those days. And it was
white people's sport. Well, he was white, but still, yeah.
And what it was like trying to break in and trying to be taken seriously. And it was a great story. It was a great story.
That time we tried to lynch Chichi Rodriguez.
Why are we talking about my golf book? I've done 19 theater books.
You brought that one. Is your name on it, or is only Sam Snead's name on it?
It's just Sam. It was a ghost.
Ghosts are really part of your itinerary here. By the way, we had a question here in our Today-Yesterday quiz about March 14th. This man received a patent for his machine that separated cotton fibers from their seeds. Name the man and the invention. I'm gonna give this one to my wife. Or did you get both names?
I did.
Joyce, do you want to go for this? I think you had it.
It's the only one I know because I did a book, Eli Whitney.
And the?
Cotton gin.
Yay!
I did a diorama, I think, in 3rd grade about cotton.
But you know what I didn't remember or didn't know? Do you know why they call it a cotton gin?
It's an engine. It was just short for engine.
I had no idea about that. They never taught us that as kids. They said gin. It's a gin. What the hell is a gin? You know?
Right. I have to let you know, I am an inveterate reader of the encyclopedia. And so I have a lot of what we refer to as Robert's little known and little cared about facts. So I have a lot of these little known and little cared about facts at my fingertips.
Was it more pleasurable to have that before Wikipedia, where you could come up with something and people were really impressed, and now it's like they go on their phones?
No, now people are more impressed because I don't have to look it up. It's just in my head. I can just pop it out.
That's pretty cool. That is. I mean, I'm impressed.
I can do math without having to use a calculator.
48 and 168.
That would be 216.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
That wasn't hard. That was a simple addition.
Well, wasn't it? Okay.
That's 1st grade math. You understand?
No, I can kind of do it, but it would take me about 15 seconds.
Right, by the way.
Well, 8 and 8. Well, 6 would be the last number. That's just about as far as I can. Hey, next question in our Today-Yesterday quiz. 1889. We're moving up here. We're getting up in the world.
That was the era of the operettas that were very popular, and the Gilbert and Sullivan were in full swing. And
actually, you'll get this question. Don't even answer that. You'll know it. But not all our people are theater people here. Copenhagen on March 14th.
Not Copenhagen, by the way, for those of you who like that.
It's a wonderful, wonderful Copenhagen,
That's right.
by the way. Yeah. It was a place, it was a friendly old girl of a town, if you think about it. Was the place for the world premiere of this drama by Swedish playwright August Strindberg. Now, the plot is an upper-class woman's doomed affair.
I already know the answer.
I know,
you just said the date and the playwright, and I already know the answer. We study this, actually. I teach it.
Well, this is a woman's doomed affair with her valet. Name the show. So for people who aren't Robert, who don't automatically know, you want to take a guess on this one, and I'll give him a few seconds. 1889 Copenhagen, premiere of drama by Swedish playwright August Strindberg. Why did it premiere in Copenhagen if he was Swedish? I don't know. But and the play It's about an upper-class woman who has kind of a fling with her valet, but for some reason this tells her that her whole world is wrong and doesn't end well for her, presumably. What is the name of the show? Robert, I call on you.
Miss Julie.
That is correct, Miss Julie.
It's funny because I taught it in my class, and the students were like, "Why do we have to know this? What will we ever need to know this information?" And that week, on Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, they had a whole plot line about Miss Julie.
Oh, really? Oh,
yes. I was like, ha ha, ha ha. See,
It
because you
comes-
took this class, you got that joke, and most people would not get that joke.
Why is Miss Julie important? I the play never did it for me. I'm kind of wondering what's so special.
In that period in history, the idea of breaking down a barrier between an upper class person and he's her butler.
Yeah.
But also the frank way that they discuss sex. This was the Victorian era. This was a very, very laced up era. To talk about sex that openly was. It's like people nowadays will see The Boys in the Band, and it seems like a very tame discussion, or else the monologue in Chorus Line.
When he realizes he's gay.
When he appears in the Jewel Box Review, and he has to come out to his parents. People today, this is just commonly talked about, and it's very relaxed. In those days, this was forbidden to talk about, and it was so breaking of taboos to talk about this in a play. Plus the difference between the classes, it was really a breakthrough of a play. It enabled people to start writing about things that they had never been able to write about before. So yes, Miss Julie is a very important play, my friends.
I remember there was a...
It's also a really good play. It's a terrific play.
I don't know. I was left cold. The last Broadway production.
You were left cold by Miss Julie?
I really was, yeah. With Johnny Lee Miller and Sienna Miller were in an updated version. Remember that? It was reset in 1945.
Yeah, I played a clip from it in the class.
Oh yeah, Anyway, but okay, well done. You are now 3 for. Jesus, you're 3 for 3. I may not get this man in our today, yesterday quiz on Dave's Gone By. Yeah, but
Cousins chime in.
No, I don't know if they're watching. I haven't seen
Pressure
them
is on.
tune in. 1923.
All right.
Today, yesterday, which means like March 14th, 1923, Warren G. Harding did something that no other president had done before, but every president has done it since. It's okay, he could afford it. What did he do? Hold on.
Well, I know that he was involved in the Teapot Dome scandal. And I know he died in office, but others had died in office before him.
I may have stumped him.
Warren Harding did something in office.
This is a tough one.
He was also involved with, he had an affair also with other presidents, but not all.
How do you know all this about presidents? How do you
Robert Little known and little cared about facts.
Yeah.
What did he do in March of 1923? I don't know, Dave. I think
Maybe I'll give you an...
It's not a theater. There's no theater connection to this. So.
Well, the thing is, here's your hint. He had to do it in March in order for it to be done by April.
He planted flowers?
Nope. Anybody out there? Sometimes we get people chiming in with the answers here, but the answer is...
Put it out there for you.
He filed an income tax return. He paid taxes. He was the first president.
They didn't have income tax before that.
Presidents didn't pay it. People paid it. Presidents didn't. They were exempt up until he had a $75,000 income, and he volunteered. He said, "I'm gonna pay my share."
Only 3 for 4 now.
All right, okay. Let's see if you will probably get this next one. We're gonna move all the way up to 1940. Today, yesterday, Paramount Pictures releases this popular film. I'll give you the synopsis. You give me the title, and it's 3 stars. Okay?
This is a movie question.
This is a movie question.
My area of specialty knowledge is very narrow, but go ahead. Yeah.
Let's try it. Josh Mallon and Ace Lanigan are best friends working aboard the same ship. They vow never to get involved with women, but that's tested by so many women they run into, they escape to an island. On that island, a beautiful woman who ends up running both their lives and nearly comes between them. Can you name the movie and the peoples?
No.
Okay. Well, let's give it a few seconds for the folks at home. I'll read that again. Today, yesterday, Paramount Pictures, 1940. I'll give you the synopsis.
Wait a second. Was this a road movie?
Which one?
Wait a minute. All right. I am getting this now.
He is getting this. He is.
Do I have to? Are we waiting to see if other people?
No, go ahead.
So it was Bob Hope and Bing Crosby
and
Dorothy Lamour. And
you've already gotten it. Well, I mean, you don't have to. Getting
it was Road to
Polynesia.
No, there wasn't any Road to Polynesia.
No, there's never Polynesia.
You had to somewhere.
Yeah.
Road to Tahiti?
No.
Road to, I don't know. It was Road to somewhere.
It absolutely was.
Okay.
Oh wait. Maybe this will give you the hint. There's little holes.
Road to Mole.
La 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 la. I'm singing to the holes in my skin. La 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 la.
But you do that all the time, so
Yeah.
I'm confused.
I did that at work, and you still kept me. Oh no. And I got it. It's I'm
not touching that.
No, nor should you. That's what she said. But no, you the road to la 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 holes in the skin la. Sing a pour.
Sing a pour. Road.
Sing a pour. It was the first Bob. It was the first movie. It was the first Hope and Crosby road picture.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember the last one, I didn't realize this, it was about 10 years between the penultimate one and the last one that they did in 1962 when they did Road to Hong Kong. So very well done. Yeah, elbow on that one.
Around 3.5 now for 6.
No, you got that one. You got it like it was a road picture.
3 3/4 to 6.
1954, in his very first exhibition game, do you like baseball?
Sports, no. Well, I'll give it a try.
You'll give this one a try.
The sports is definitely, if I were playing Trivial Pursuit, I get that land on that brown space, it's just like, oh, forget it.
When I do that, I change my underpants. But this Alabama-born ball player hit a home run. It was a harbinger of things to come, as this legend would hit 755 of them during his career, including shot number 715 that took down Babe Ruth's record. Name him.
Joe from Hannibal Moe?
Joe from Hannibal Moe.
I only know baseball if it's in the show.
You want me to try this one, babe? You're not a baseball person. But this is a fella, in his first exhibition game, he hit a home run, and he did everything well. But he ended up hitting 755 homers during his career. He passed Babe Ruth.
Joe Schlabotnik.
Well, let me tell you something. When he passed Babe Ruth, he got death.
You get that? Do you get that reference?
That's
Willie Mays.
Yeah, because she's eating peanuts.
Willie Mays. No, gosh.
It's not Willie Mays, but you're in the right ballpark, quite literally.
Did anybody get my Joe Schlabotnik joke? Oh, you're not on the computer anymore.
Nobody wrote. The last one was, I gave them the Broadway Podcast Network, and I said Facebook on Facebook for Robert Viagas.
And then they went.
And you got a like. You got a like.
Oh, yeah. So
it's the ghost stories that are really.
People love the ghost stories.
Yeah, people do.
I got a million.
Impressions, not so much. Do you do any impressions? Don't. No. Are there any that you're pretty good at that are very recognizable?
No. I'm terrible at impressions.
Well, anyway, the answer is. Oh, what if I give you the adjective hammerin'?
Is this a Lin-Manuel Miranda reference?
No.
Anything with ham, I assume is.
Oh no, hammer. Like if I had
hammer.
Hammering.
What? I don't.
Oh, okay. And well, the person, the Alabama ball player who took down Babe Ruth and actually got a lot of death and racist threats against him was Hammerin' Hank Aaron.
Hammerin' Hank Aaron. I had no idea that was his nickname.
Oh, okay, yeah. He spent almost his whole career with Braves, and his record was eventually broken steroidally by Barry Bonds.
It's not Damn Yankees or Take Me Out. I probably won't.
Was Joe Schlabotnik from Peanuts, or where was he from?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought, yeah.
That was Charlie Brown's favorite baseball player. And he's the only one who's interested in the Joe Schlabotnik baseball card because nobody else likes him.
Didn't you once complain to me about Peanuts? I
Eating
thought it was
them?
you.
Yes, probably.
No. You once said that you never got Charlie Brown. They were never funny. I thought that was you.
That was somebody else. No, that was somebody else. I
somebody
like
else?
Charlie Brown.
Oh, okay.
I didn't like it as much as Calvin and Hobbes, but nothing is as funny as Calvin and Hobbes.
I'm more a Far Side guy, but you could probably guess that. Oh, look, another sports question.
Great.
Speaking of sports, yesterday in the NBA playoffs, NBA, excuse me, the Philadelphia Warriors beat the Syracuse Nationals 132 to 112. I'm sure you all remember this. 53 of Philadelphia's points were scored by one player, the most by any player in a playoff game. Name this 7-foot 1-inch legend.
That was my son Ben.
There you go. That's it. Yeah.
It was Joe Schlabach.
We're Jewish men. We always count inches. So who is this? I don't even know. Who did this for the Philadelphia Warriors?
Why are we asking sports questions? You're losing your
I
audience.
didn't know you were going to be
You're
here.
losing your audience.
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, you want to try this one?
No.
Well, I mentioned his height
Okay.
because he was known for being quite rail thin and tall.
Mickey Mantle.
No.
I just think, Robert, you can yell at anything. It doesn't matter.
Give
I've
us
already
a name.
yelled out a few things.
Charles Strauss.
Charles Strauss.
No.
Also, his other career.
And the answer is Wilt the Stilt. Last name? Come
Chamberlain.
On. There you go. Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah.
I only know the names of sports players that they say over and over again on the radio.
Well, that's why. I mean, these are
Brett
famous.
Saberhagen. I don't even know what sport he plays. They just love saying his name over and over and over.
Because it sounds like sauerbraten. It sounds like a Frankfurter that you're going to eat. To me, anyway.
No, it sounds like a super villain.
And did you know that Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points in a game against the New York Knicks in 1962? I mean, I could have
honestly
scored.
say I did not know that.
Knicks. Yeah, there you go. All right, this totally different thing. Okay, got a couple more questions here on our yesterday quiz. 1964.
64.
This nightclub owner with underworld connections was convicted of murder with malice and sentenced to death on March 14th, 1964. Name him and the victim. So take a moment. Nightclub owner with underworld connections convicted of murder with malice and sentenced to death. Name him and whom he killed. Do you want to try this one also?
I'm going with Legs Diamond because that's the only.
Well, theater
that's the
with it.
only.
Tell me.
That's the only.
No, wait. This is not a sports question. This
Those
is
people that I know.
Repeat it. Dame otra vez.
this is one of the most famous murders of all time. The nightclub owner with underworld connection,
Oh! Wait a second. Underworld, can I keep going?
convicted of murder
Yes.
with malice, and he was sentenced to death. Name him.
Jack Ruby.
Boom!
Jack Ruby. I got it.
You got it, man.
He killed Lee Harvey Oswald.
He sure did.
Shot him on television.
Yeah.
Live audience. I remember watching it and gasping.
No.
Yes.
How old are you?
I'm 200 years old.
Wow.
I
mean,
go
I
over
was
in
a lot- no, I
Brigadoon
wasn't
and then I
like
come
that.
back once every 100 years. This is the day. It was Jack Ruby shot Lee Harvey Oswald on
Right.
television when he was a nightclub owner. Yeah. And he was, and they, I would have to say they executed him, or he died very, very quickly after that, because people want to know, why did Jack Ruby kill Lee Harvey?
Of course they
What
would,
was he
yeah.
trying to hide?
Yeah.
So, the conspiracy theorists, they love talking about Jack Ruby.
Well, the thing was, he appealed his.
Robert's little known and little cared about fact.
No, not little cared about. People still talk about the Kennedy and the ramifications, the fallout. But Ruby appealed his sentence and was going to go to another trial, and he died in between.
Died? What
What a shot.
interesting timing.
Of an embolism in prison. He was 50. He's younger than I am. That's what's killing me. Is like these people who are. I always thought I was so old and now I'm older
Well,
than they
load
were.
up and get out there and make your name, my friend.
Oh, that's true. Well, where's my gun? Two more questions in
Locked
order
away.
to.
Everybody else seems to be doing it.
Locked away.
1966. Oh, you'll get this. Released today in England, a movie based on a popular autobiographical book. The story: a woman and her husband raise a lion cub and then teach it to live back in the wild.
Oh.
Name the book, also the name of the movie, and the woman it's about. Give it a moment.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
I know. I don't know the name of the woman, but I know the movie.
You're telling the truth. You're not lying.
Not lie. I mainly lie.
Back when you were a cub reporter.
That's right.
Yeah. Some of my jokes are simple. This one was Simbapole. I'm sorry. I apologize. I apologize terribly for that one.
You know, sometimes it's important to know when to stop.
Have I ever? Have I ever?
I didn't say you do stop, but it's important to know when to stop.
Well, how about starting us with the answer to the question of the woman
I don't know.
and the book that she wrote about...
Born free as the wind blows.
Very good, very good. Are you happy about the getting it right? Do you feel a certain sense of...
Joy? Joy to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Joy...
The name of the writer and the woman that this happened to was Joy Adamson.
Joy Adamson.
There you go. But hey, I'm going to give you more than half credit on that. That was well done. Joy Adamson, who wrote Born Free. All right, we've got... Oh, and this is... You want to talk about creepy and freaky and ghosty? Joy Adamson in 1980, she was murdered by a former employee.
Not a lion.
No,
much more interesting if it was a lion.
No, yeah. And her husband was murdered by poachers in 1989. So...
Wow.
Yeah, both of them who tried to save lions were killed by the people who were trying to kill lions.
One of the most unhappy people I've known in my life was named Joy, and so I refer to her as the ironically named Joy.
Ooh. Was she? We knew a woman named Joy who essentially killed herself.
Isn't that Nick Cage or Nick? What's that song?
Oh,
yeah, I knew
from
a
the
girl
Nick Cave
named
album.
Joyce. She was a happy little thing, and then she was like murdered or something.
Yeah,
it's the murder
sense
ballad,
he murdered her.
He
Yeah,
murdered her, yeah.
All right, we got one last happy little question in our yesterday quiz. Oh boy, you'll get this one because it's a theater question. 3,000.
Imagine if I don't.
Well, that would be.
The heat is on.
Well, it's not a Broadway question.
I know things other than Broadway.
I know. 3,000 performances has become pretty common for hit Broadway musicals. But it was a big deal when this off-Broadway musical, the second longest running ever, hit 3,000 on this date at and this will give it away, the Douglas Fairbanks Theater. Why, you would almost call it miraculous.
That's right. I know the answer to this.
Okay, give it a moment. Well, we just had someone else tune in. Hello, and hello to Laura and Monique and Matthew and Megan and Cal and bunches and bunches of other people.
Oh, did you see John? Yeah.
And yeah, I don't
see
see.
any people Abercrombie anymore. See, that would be nice.
That's a store. It's an overpriced store for the.
It'd be kind of a fitch if I saw that. Anyway, so here's the show. It ran. It hit 3,000 on March 14th, 1993, at the Douglas Fairbanks Theater. Kind of a miracle that it did. What is the name of the show?
I don't want to get in the habit of answering these. When in Rome, it's nonsense.
Yes, indeed. And by the way, the show here, since you're a real Broadway guy, before it was at the Douglas Fairbanks, where was it? This I wouldn't have known.
It was downtown.
It was at the Cherry Lane.
The Cherry
Lane. It
Lane.
opened on December 12th,
So many shows have passed through the Cherry Lane.
Yeah.
My younger son, Nick, was in a theater group for stutterers called, now it's called Say. Now it's called Say. And every year they would rent a theater to do their annual show where they would do original plays.
Yeah.
And one year they booked the Cherry Lane. And so my son was making his off-Broadway debut on the stage of the Cherry Lane. I said, do you have any idea the history behind this theater? This is one of the oldest theaters in the city.
What has been done there over the years?
Oh my God, Closer Than Ever and Godspell and just show after show after show.
Wow.
Great shows and many unknown shows. But it's the fact that it has been on that little tiny, it's the Cherry Lane Theater, it's not on Cherry Lane, it's on Commerce Street.
That's true, yeah, I never understood that.
And that building's been there since 1815. So it's 200 years and more now since that space has been used for various things. I think it was actually a factory at one time, but it's been a theater for over a century. And I have to say, I don't know if it really has an impact on him, but for me, as his father, having Mispocha Nachas, seeing him performing on that stage, it was amazing.
Wait a minute. Where did that phrase come from? How do you know Mishpocha Nachas? Who taught you? Is your girlfriend
Now she's a shiksa goddess.
Oh, hello. Okay, yeah.
You know they always go for the shiksa goddess. Second.
Yeah.
No, when I was growing up in Franklin Square, we were the only Gentiles in the area.
And they should have kept it that way, but yeah.
And
the neighborhood just.
So I kind of grew up with that.
Wow, that's of all phrases to know, but he's right. Of course he's right. I think you hit about
of
7.5
right.
out of 10, or maybe 8 out of 10 in our quiz. And by the way, just to cap this off, Nonsense ended up running 3,672 performances before it closed in October of 1994.
But now they've had how many sequels? They had Nonsense.
Amen.
And Nonsense Amen. Yeah. And they have they've done so many different versions of Nonsense.
So
that original Nonsense is very entertaining.
Oh, it's a fun show. The cooking part, that's a really funny scene.
Fun.
Yeah. Tons of fun for every nun. Hey, where is that lyric from? Who are they talking about, and where is that lyric from? Tons of fun for every nun.
I'm blanking, Dave. So
I actually remember this.
Spit it out.
It was from the Dutch production musicalization of Cyrano that they brought to Broadway like 20 years ago. And there's a scene before he died. And
oh, yes, I remember that one.
Cyrano is tons of fun. He's tons of fun for every nun. And the critics were like, no, he's not.
There was a wonderful musicalization of Cyrano that was done with Christopher Plummer. And only lasted 5 performances, but I have to tell you, they recorded a cast album, and it is a wonderful cast album.
Was it called Cyrano? Or was
Cyrano.
Yeah.
Yeah, just Cyrano.
Oh.
And he was terrific in it. And I don't know why that show just didn't fly.
I think his singing was a little nasal, but
he sounds great on the cast.
I'm kidding. It's yeah. That's not funny. I know how to pick them, don't I? Yeah, no.
I'm leaving.
Not before we finish the show.
Okay.
By the way, we've been talking and having so much fun with Robert Viagas. Let's remind everybody before
Viagas, not Bob. It's Robert.
Oh, you don't like nobody calls you Bob. Bob.
My father used to enforce that. He said, "I named you Robert, and you're going to be known as Robert," which is much harder with my brother Charles, who I still call Charles, and everybody else wanted to call Charlie. He gave into that, but I did not.
Wow. Okay. So Robert Viagas.
It's my thing.
By the way, what is your background? You're not Jewish, obviously, but your heritage, what is it?
I'm half Italian, but the other half, my father's half, is a very unusual ethnic group. We are from the British Crown colony of Gibraltar. We're from Gibraltar, so we're Gibraltarian. We're ethnically Spanish, but are culturally English because we belong to England. So, I will say this: my grandfather, who came over, did speak Spanish, and my father spoke Spanish in the home when he was growing up. And but he would not allow us to speak Spanish because he said we're American now. And so the only Spanish I learned was in high school, which is to say practically none.
Exactly.
So I'm half Spanish and half Italian.
And what's interesting is they didn't play Spanish or Mexican music because it was from Gibraltar. They played rock.
My father was a jazz musician, and
Really?
we only played jazz in the house. And so that's part of the reason that the music of my generation came to me later than most people. And that I used to listen, and it was all right to listen to show music because a lot of it is derived from big band music, at least of that period.
Yeah.
Now we have much richer selection of music to draw upon. But that was kind of when I was growing up. That was kind of the deal.
Favorite all-time cast album?
Chorus Line.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Chorus Line.
Yeah. No. Okay.
Brilliant. The original cast. Brilliant. But I have a lot of cast albums that I like. I have some that you would expect, like Sweeney Todd, and some that you wouldn't expect. Like I really love the original cast album of Promises, Promises.
Oh,
No other show sounds like Promises, Promises. It has a unique sound to it. But the original cast album of Sunday in the Park with George.
Please, yes. Nothing like that.
I'm doing a podcast where we're basically talking about cast albums. Don't forget, most people's experience with with Broadway is through the cast albums, playing them and listening to them and imagining what the show was like. Now you can go online and you can see clips, but for many years, the cast, and for people who live outside the New York area or who don't have the price of a Broadway ticket, their window on Broadway was the cast album. And so people underestimate the importance of the cast album in the history American musicals, but it was key. And I used to listen to a show out of New Jersey, WVNJ, called Curtain Time, hosted by Ed Hurley. Every weeknight, he would play a cast album. And I, young teenage Robert Viagas in the late 60s, early 70s, had a reel-to-reel tape recorder. And I would hang the microphones on the speaker, and I would record the cast albums off of the radio.
Wow.
And so I still have stored away those reel-to-reels. That was my introduction to Broadway. And I had to imagine what Broadway was like. It was all, Broadway lived up here for many years for me, until I actually got to go and start to see real shows in New York, which was amazing to me. But I had that rich background. That's why when they announced they were doing movies of Lord of the Rings, I hastily read out loud the entire Hobbit and Lord of the Rings to my two sons, so that they would have their own image before somebody imposed an image on them. It took a year to read, for bedtime stories, to read through those 4 books. But the importance of stimulating your imagination, which the theater does, and not letting somebody else tell you how to do it, is so important, and such an important part of the theater. In Chorus Line, they talk about I would dance around the living room. We would listen to these albums, and I used to conduct them. I was a big conductor. I would conduct the Broadway shows. And that's part of the reason why I love orchestrators so much, because I got to really focus on the amazing contribution that Sid Raymond, Robert Russell Bennett, I mean, there's incredible orchestrators are the unsung heroes of Broadway musicals. They create the sound. They tell the story by their choice of instruments. I really admire orchestrators. That's one of my things. It's one of my little things. Like,
no, I don't blame you. And it's hard to credit. People say, "Oh, the composers," and they don't realize what Jonathan Tunick or people like that do, and it's pretty.
John Tunick did a lot of Stephen Sondheim's. So when you listen to Sweeney Todd, and you listen to Company, and you listen to Little Night Music, those albums are so different. All orchestrated by the same guy. Brilliant. Yeah. He was when they initiated the Tony Award for orchestrators, which did not come until pretty late. The first winner was John Tunick.
Yeah. I have nothing to add to that.
William David Brown, Bill Brown. Yeah, incredible orchestrator.
And we're bronies now. So I went for I couldn't think of one. I went for My Little Pony thing. You want wah. You know, we got get pretty close to ending this episode of Dave's Gone By. So, but give me like a couple of minutes, couple things I still have to do. First of all, I've got to thank some folks. I got to thank my darling and adorable wife Joyce for all of her help. I want to thank all the wonderful people for watching and tuning in and telling folks about this program, telling them that every Saturday from 9 until noon or thereabouts, we're at this Facebook page. I know. Well, you know, you're such a wonderful guest. Thank you. Seriously, actually. And remember that you can see the archives and hear the archives of all these episodes. We've been doing this since October of 2002. Most of them are audio only. We're on a regular radio station for many years. They're all at davesgoneby.com. davesgoneby.com. You can drop me an email, davesgoneby@aol.com. And don't forget the Twitter feed, Radio Dave 2. Radio Dave, the number 2.
People in the watch party.
Fantastic.
Don't forget to thank the cameraman and your studio staff here.
Wait, look,
and the studio audience.
There's Olive. There's her shadow.
The studio audience. No, that's the Black Goon.
The Black Goon, that's right. Isn't that what Fox News used to call Obama? Anyway, apropos of that, it's time for the most tasteless portion of the show. You can duck out and play if you want to. No, it gets worse than that. Because we haven't done our Colorado Limerick of the Damned yet.
Fancy, Robert.
And these are horrible. You know,
I don't know if I want to be on screen for this.
You just cover your face in shame. That's what most people do, yeah.
This isn't the worst. We've done much worse. Perfect.
There you go.
Let's get through this quickly. This is Joyce and I lived in Colorado for many, many years. And so
yes, David.
While we were there, I started writing these poems about all these different towns and places and municipalities in Colorado. There are these 5-line poems, and being limericks, they tend to be rude and horrible. So every week I bring one in. Today we go to Blanca Colorado for our Colorado Limerick of the day.
You're the poetry man.
A limerick is a comic verse of 5 lines, in which lines 1, 2, and 5 will end with words that rhyme. And likewise, verses 3 and 4 also end with words that rhyme. So this is a limerick.
Rocky Mountain,
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, our Colorado Limerick of the Damned, and we go to Blanca, Colorado today. Now, Blanca is a statutory. You would know this. What the hell is a statutory?
Statutory.
What does it mean?
It means according to statute, which is a law.
So, but how does that relate to a place? How does a town have a statutory town?
It's a town.
Is it a town that's been raped? What is it?
No, it's a town that's been made, created.
Yeah. Oh.
Created through a law.
Oh, aren't all towns made that way?
I don't know.
We call it a statutory town in south central Colorado, known for elk hunting. No, you can't see that.
I want to see how bad it's going to be, whether I want to be on camera for this or not.
It's really not too bad. It's really not terrible. And being someone who knows Kiss Me Kate, this might also appeal to you. So here we go. But elk hunting and trout fishing in Blanca, founded in 1908 in a land lottery named, there we go, named after nearby Blanca Peak Mountain.
I would gladly give up coffee for Sanka, even Sanka, Bianca, for you.
Don't spoil my poem. Don't spoil it. The town grew to a couple of thousand people with 3 hotels and 3 newspapers. It's only about 400 people now. Since 1990, go figure, the one big store in this town is a Polish-based, Polish immigrants opened it. They sell liquor, Polish sausages, and other Eastern European fare. So this is Blanca, Colorado. It still exists. It's still there in south central Colorado. But it may not after I read my Colorado Limerick of the Damned.
I'm sure I'm going to regret that.
Oh, yes, you will. I had an ex-girlfriend in Blanca who'd bathe in a tub full of Sanka. When she would emerge, I'd get a strong urge to bend her ass over and spank her.
Which is also from Bianca.
You guys knew Spanka.
Yes, Spanka, yes.
Spanka's in there? I stole Spanka?
Yes,
Where is that? Where's that in the lyrics? I don't remember the song that well.
Better than or Papa Spanka. Bum,
Really?
ba-dum, bum.
Oh, dear.
Bianca. Right.
My apologies to Cole Porter and the Cole Porter estate for...
Don't try to sneak that past me, my friend.
Of all people to have, the one person who would catch that. Well, you have been watching the Dave's Gone By Facebook, your podcast, your program, your stream with me, Dave Lefkowitz, and my wonderful special guest, Robert Viagas. Really, seriously.
Robert Viagas.
So, obviously, wonderfully well-spoken, kind of brilliant in a way, actually, and a terrific public speaker. Go see him. Go check him out when he's doing these lectures or when they crank up his course again in the fall.
Right.
Yeah, all on Long Island. Eventually, you'll be in Manhattan, too, I can tell. But find out more at his Facebook page and Twitter feed, Robert Viagas, Viagas. Oh, I want to remind you, if you're a theater...
travels in Andalusian dialect.
What?
So
Voyage, like Viagas.
Right,
yeah.
like Voyage.
Yeah.
Very simple.
Next week,
Voyages.
Those, if you like, because especially you love theater and you're watching theater and you miss theater because you're not getting, first of all, you should be like he is because he's going off Broadway to see shows over the next couple.
I'm not letting this virus stop me. I'm going to still see Broadway. I'm still seeing shows. I'm seeing a show tonight. I'm seeing more shows.
And I'm still drinking Coronas excessively. So there you go.
And smoking Coronas. Matter of fact, we were both smoking Coronas just before this show.
Is that a cigar?
It's a cigar.
Oh, okay.
Steve Herb said hi. The Whistler.
Oh, Steve the Whistler!
Just
Yay!
waved at you.
Wait, do that again, please.
It's my one actual talent. I can whistle in harmony.
Again, something this guy can do that I can't. I mean, this is killing me here. But I want to let you all know.
He can't do the corkscrew leg like you.
He probably could. And I don't do it very well. I can't Groucho it. I can do it with one leg, but not the other. But you like this. Next Saturday on Dave's Gone By, our guest is going to be the playwright and cross-dresser extraordinaire Charles Bush.
Oh, he's great. He's a really good interview.
Oh, good. Yeah, and he seems like a really nice guy.
Super nice guy.
Unlike you.
So understated, too, considering the roles that he plays.
Right, because he dresses up as melodramatic character.
Super drag, right.
Yeah. So his plays have included
You've
Vampire...
not seen David.
No, I'm just a drag to be with.
I have seen that.
Yeah. Even
I came on anyway.
Even when I dress as a woman in period costume, I'm still wearing white socks.
In period costume?
Yeah, costume when I have my period. That's the third period joke you made me make today.
My fault.
I should do them in advertisements because they're spots. But you know.
Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret.
Anyway, Charles Busch of Red Scare on Sunset, of Vampire Lesbians of Sodom. He just did The Confession of Lily Dare. What?
I'm just saying that title. It's just fun to say that.
Yeah,
title.
yeah.
And that gives you an idea. Just saying that title gives you a very vivid idea of what his stage persona is like.
Now, the reason we were going to have Charles Busch on is he's developing this one-person show about his life and career that he was going to be doing in a week or two. It's canceled. Wah, wah. But it doesn't matter. We're still having Charles Busch on next Saturday, March 21st on Dave's Gone By. So it just remains for me to thank, really with tremendous gratitude, Robert Viagas for being with us on Dave's Gone By. To wish you all health and a good week ahead. Happy springtime. Next time I see you, it's going to be a new season.
Live long and prosper.
That's right. God, I almost want to ask you one more question to take us out of here. One more thing that you can regale us with.
Why don't you sing the theme song?
So
sing your song.
Yeah. Okay, so if Chorus Line is your favorite album, what's your favorite Chorus Line song?
It would have to be, oh God, they're all great. It would have to be At the Ballet.
Oh.
Everything is beautiful at the ballet. It's just these girls who they sort of live these broken, traumatized lives, and they are redeemed and they are transported by the beauty of dance. That's a great idea for a song right there. Great idea for a song.
Here's another great idea of a song that I just found on YouTube to take us out of this episode of Dave's Gone By on this March 14th, 2020. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. Here's a viral anthem.
Dude, have you heard about the coronavirus? Yeah, it's hysteria, miseducation, racism. Nobody understands how to cough right. It's so hot right now. Let's go to China and shoot a video. What the hell are you talking about? Dude, let's go. Everyone's going the other way. I think you need to pump the brakes, Tom. Tickets are going to be so cheap, my brother. They're so cheap. Ooh, my little Wuhan one. Viral one. Come and think and just my lungs. Hey, corona. Zoonotic transmission. Where's it from? That's a civet cat who knows. Wait, corona. When's it gonna stop? Fever, cough. Wash your dirty hands. Why I ever stop? In Hawaii. On vacation, man. Why?
Whoa. Yes, indeed. Stay alive for 7 more days, and we'll see you in a week with another Dave's Gone By and Gone By.